that there's something wrong with the world. You don't know what it is, but it's there. You can feel it.
Get up on out the bed and start to move your balls. Wake up a word, it's Solomon Jones. Word. You better wake up now.
Good morning. This is Solomon Jones on 900 AM, 96.1 FM, WURD, and I want to welcome you to another edition of Wake Up with Word. It is a beautiful day outside, but it is going to be absolutely boiling out there. So y'all make sure that you get some air conditioning. Make sure that you take care of yourself. Make sure that you do what you got to do today in order to get through. There's a whole lot going on today, a whole lot we got to get to. But I just wanted to make sure that y'all knew that first, that it's going to feel like literally 110 degrees. So if you thought yesterday was bad, hold on to your hats, drink plenty of water, and try to get in some air conditioning if you can. But wait, there's more. Because while temperatures are soaring, the trash is going to be sitting outside. That's right. The city announced yesterday that Philly residents should put their trash out a day later than usual this week as the city plays catch up. And I'm listening to people make the world go round, and that's the first thing they say. Trash man didn't get my trash today. I'm like, did they make that in 2020? Did they make that this month? Did they make it just a couple days ago? Because that is exactly what's going on now. Garbage is piled up on sidewalks during this coronavirus pandemic as sanitation workers call out sick in large numbers. The Inquirer reports that staff from other departments helped pick up trash over the weekend, cutting the collection delays from 3 to 4 days to 1 to 2 days, according to Streets Commissioner Carlton Williams. Still, residents should expect delays this week as collection crews prioritize trash not picked up from last week. The Streets Department is also going to expand operating hours of its sanitation convenience centers where residents can throw out their garbage without delays. Starting today, those centers are going to be open 7 days a week. Residents have to show proof of residency with either a driver's license or a bill with your address on it. Now, as you know, this has been an issue for all of us in the last couple weeks, but we need the city to step up and pick up the trash. That's a basic service, and with the taxes we're paying in this pandemic we're suffering, with the burdens we're bearing, that's the very least the city can do. We got a hot show for you today on Wake Up with Word. Kenneth Salam, otherwise known as Freedom Smitty, is going to be joining us to talk about the time he spent marching with the late civil rights leader John Lewis, who died on Friday. Lawyer and critical race theorist Dr. Tim Golden on the latest in the Breonna Taylor case and the legacy of John Lewis. Patrick Rucker of the Capitol Forum on the Trump administration stopping discrimination probes into Bank of America and other lenders. And as always, we've got you, our listeners, calling in at 215-634-8065 or toll free 1-866-361-0900. Hit us on Twitter and Instagram at onWURD, or you can hit me personally at Solomon Jones 1. Watch us on Facebook at Forward. But first, it's the big three, the news stories you need to know to kick off your day right here on Wake Up with Word. Starting out with sad news, story number one, the search for 2-year-old King Hill has come to a tragic end. The boy's mother says detectives confirmed Sunday that the child was killed. He was first reported missing on July 10th. Police are not yet releasing any details on the developments, but King's mother says detectives confirmed Sunday that her son was killed and that they believe they know who is responsible. Amber Hill says her son was supposed to be in the care of his stepfather. Philadelphia police say King's stepfather reported him missing on July 7th when he realized a babysitter he trusted with the 2-year-old did not have him. The babysitter told police she returned the child to his mother. A handoff King's mother says never happened. I blame myself for even trusting my baby's father with my son, Amber Hill said. I thought he was in good hands, and he gave him to this woman I don't know that he knows, and now my son is deceased. It's a very sad story, and we are praying for that family, praying for their healing and for their for them to just get through. This is a tough time, man. We're going through a virus. We're going through unemployment. We're going through just craziness, man, out of Washington, D.C. And to have this happen as well to this family we are certainly keeping them in our prayers. Story number 2. Protesters are reportedly being swept off the streets in Portland by unidentified federal agents, and House Democrats are asking questions. In a joint letter, Judiciary Committee Chairman Jerry Nadler and others said the Trump administration appears to have increasingly abused emergency authorities to justify the use of force against Americans exercising their right to peaceful assembly. The lawmakers cited recent reports of protesters being picked up in Portland by unidentified federal agents as evidence that, quote, this misuse of resources and personnel remains a growing threat. They said in some instances, people could not tell the difference between the federal agents and far-right extremists in the region who wore similar military gear. They described Customs and Border Patrol agents snatching up citizens and detaining them without identifying themselves as federal law enforcement or informing the detainees of their rights. Not only is this irresponsible and dangerous, but it is a violation of constitutional rights, the Democratic lawmakers said. Every day that I go through the Trump administration, I got to be honest, man, I feel like I'm living in Russia or something. I feel like, you know, like, where are we? Is this still America? Y'all snatching people off the streets and, like, is this a movie? What is this? Is this something? Am I watching Netflix right now? Am I, like, on my couch eating popcorn, watching Netflix, and it's like, you know, some kind of movie? Because what? Y'all snatching people off the streets in black vans. I need all my conspiracy theorists to call up because I know y'all out there like, see, I told you, Solomon. Yeah, this is crazy. This is absolutely insane. We got to get down to the bottom of this because in Portland, this is actually a thing. And so I want to know what you guys think about it. Federal agents in camouflage gear, in unmarked vans, snatching protesters off the streets. I want to know what you think about that. And, of course, story number 3. My commentary for the day. In pictures from the march known as Bloody Sunday, a young John Lewis looked like a man who was walking into trouble. Good trouble, he called it. The kind of trouble that resulted in beatings and arrest. The kind of trouble that could have cost him his life. The kind that ultimately changed America for the better. Lewis, who died Friday from pancreatic cancer, beat the odds more than once in a life marked by good trouble. Now, even in death, Lewis must beat the odds again. He must not be reduced to a hashtag or a name on a bridge because John Lewis was bigger than that. And for anyone who doubts that truth, consider this. Lewis was arrested 40 times while standing against Jim Crow. He risked his life on freedom rides to challenge segregation. He marched for black voting rights just days after a state trooper murdered a black man for doing the same thing. Lewis knew there would be no lawsuits after he was tear-gassed and beaten. Nobody would be fired or forced out. If Lewis had died while marching for black voting rights, his killer would have gotten away with murder because black lives did not matter. And the only reason black people can freely protest today is because Lewis and others risked their lives. John Lewis spent 44 days in a Mississippi jail so that I could travel freely. Lewis was arrested at lunch counter sit-ins so that I could eat where I want to. Lewis had his skull cracked on the Selma March, and he did it so I could vote. So I promise you this, I will vote no matter what. Not just because racism was killing black people when Lewis was fighting against it. I will vote because even after all Lewis gave, racism is killing black people today. I want to hear from you. Give me a call at 215-634-8065. That is 215-634-8065. That is the number you can call to get in on the conversation right here at WURD Radio and let us know where you are on these various things that we are talking about on this morning show. 215-634-8065 is the number. You can also hit us on Facebook, of course, at onWURD, FORWURD, FORWURD. That's where you can weigh in and let us know where you are on any of these topics we're talking about on this morning's show. Again, it's going to be about 110 degrees today. So make sure you stay in some air conditioning, turn on your fan, check on your elders because this is dangerous weather for them. And make sure you don't put your trash out if today is your trash day. They are saying that they want us to put out our trash a day late. And so make sure that you don't put your trash out today. It's going to be out there boiling in that hot sun. And so just keep your trash in if Monday is your trash day. Also, the top 3 stories we're talking about, of course, King Hill, the 2-year-old boy who went missing earlier this month, has been confirmed that he has died. And we are praying for that family. We are, praying for their healing. And I think that all of us need to be watching out for all of our kids, not just our own kids, but all of our kids, right? All of our babies, man, in our neighborhoods, all of our babies in our communities, in our families. We need to be just watching out for them. Because you never know. You never know who's trying to prey on them. You never know who's trying to hurt them. You never know what's going to happen with them. They are our responsibility, all of us. And so we need to be watching out for them, doing everything we can to make sure that they are all right. Of course, the other thing that we're talking about is protesters being snatched up in Portland. You got feds riding around in unmarked vans, snatching protesters off the streets. The House Democrats are asking for an investigation into that. It is bizarre. I'm wondering, is this a movie or is this real life? And, of course, story number 3, John Lewis. John Lewis passed this weekend, and we are celebrating his legacy and his life and really reflecting on all that he went through in order for black people to have the opportunity to just live, to just be Americans, to just be equal in this country. John Lewis had his skull cracked for you, for me. John Lewis was arrested 40 times for you and for me. John Lewis spent 44 days in a Mississippi jail for you and for me. John Lewis sacrificed for you and for me to have the opportunities that he did not. I want to know what you think about that, because some people look at John Lewis and those who were in his era, and they are saying things like, John Lewis, that nonviolence, and they disrespect what he went through in order to get us to this point. What y'all don't understand is this: the reason that y'all can file lawsuits when you get beaten by the police is because John Lewis couldn't. The reason why you can be arrested and not be beaten is because John Lewis was. The reason that you don't have to spend 40-some days in a jail over a protest is because John Lewis did it for you, right? And so I think we have to realize that as things evolve, that there are those who came before us who sacrificed everything in order for us to be at the point where we are. Do we have everything that we want? No. Are we exactly where we want to be? No. But we're better off than we were in 1958 when John Lewis started his civil disobedience. I want to hear from you. Give me a call, 215-634-8065. That is 215-634-8065. That is the number you can call to get in on the conversation right here at WURD. Tony from Delaware County is on line 1. Go ahead, Tony.
Good morning, Solomon. How you doing? God bless.
God bless you, too.
I just want to, for appreciation of that came before us, my daughter, about 3 months ago, she called me and said, Dad, you want to take me to vote? She's 19 now, and I had a lot of proud moments in my life. But I took her, picked her up, and me and her went to vote in the county. I remember I couldn't go across 63rd Street in the Upper Darby back in the 60s because the white boys would chase us back. But she's voting in the county now, and I'm sitting there with a tear in my eyes seeing my 19 because the people that came before us.
That's right.
They came before us, they gave their lives for this. And all the people say they ain't going to vote, and I don't know, ain't neither one of them no good. You only got 2 options. And let's use common sense here. And we already been seen this man's character, this man, who he is. We already been seen all that. We've seen who he is completely. He has no character. He's just a dirty businessman. We all know what he is. Now, I mean, people that came before you gave their lives, is just a matter of thing of, you just do the right thing. It's common sense. You know what I mean? Get out here, vote. Be proud of what people done before you. Know your history.
That's right.
It's no sad doubt that people don't know their history, but they know all this negative stuff. It's sad, Simon.
Yeah. No doubt. I want to thank you so much for your call this morning, man, and I'm proud of your daughter, too, and I appreciate that. My daughter's 18. She voted for the first time, so I understand exactly what you're talking about. Gary from South Philly is online, too. Go ahead, Gary.
Good morning, Word family.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I heard you about John Lewis, and he was a magnificent person.
Yeah.
And I have this to say, the more things change, the more they remain the same because of the times that we're in. It seems like as if people that don't believe in the people that came before them just take it for granted.
Mm-hmm.
And so what happens is we're pedaling backwards, and that's not a good thing for the people that came before us. They're probably turning over in their graves saying, wow, look what we've done for you, and we set the trend for you, and you're just abusing the privilege. So that's what I have to say about that.
All right. All right, Gary, I want to thank you so much for your call this morning on WURD Radio. If you want to get in, it is 215-634-8065. That is 215-634-8065. Let's go to Malik from Mount Airy on line 3. Go ahead, Malik.
Good morning, Word family. Here's how I look at it.
Mm-hmm.
John Lewis, Dr. Martin Luther King, Robert Abernathy, and a lot of other people gave their lives, but it wasn't them being nonviolent. It was the violence that they faced that helped this country move forward. So when people, let's just say, disrespect them by saying they were passive, they needed to be passive to show you just how violent and ugly racism really was. Because I can tell you, you're a racist, but there's a difference when I could literally show you the actual evidence of you not willing to listen to exactly what the Constitution says I'm entitled to. You're not listening to exactly what the Bill of Rights said I'm entitled to. So guess what? Now I'm going to show you in color exactly how ugly racism is on the Edmund Pettus Bridge, on the march through Selma. I'm going to stand there and let them act like complete savages and show you exactly how ugly. And here's the thing. It was violence that was needed that brought this country to move forward. So I thank them, him, and everybody that it's not just those four that I named. It's hundreds and thousands of other people that literally died for this. Here's the thing. They died for you to be on the radio, Solomon.
I know.
I mean, just think about that. It's little things that we forget about. Remember, there were no black radio stations. Literally. You weren't allowed, you stand up and talk about the president doing horrible things. At one point, John Lewis fought for you to be able to say that 45 is doing some horrible things to black people. But at one point, they would have, we'd have had a marching because Solomon Jones got killed. But and I know Martin Luther King and Robert Abernathy and John Lewis and all those warriors that stood before us and said, I'm going to make sure you can. You got to sit down, take your hat off, and bow and say, you know what? I thank you. I praise you. And without you, I wouldn't be able to do half the stuff I'm doing today.
You absolutely
with
right.
that said, I say thank you, John Lewis. Rest in peace, John Lewis. And for all the others, I say thank you. Y'all have a great day. All
right, Malik, thank you so much. That sums it up. We are going to go to break. On the other side, we're going to continue to take your calls. 215-634-8065. I'm Solomon Jones. We'll be right back.
In Pennsylvania, everyone counts, and everyone needs to participate in the census. Our population count determines our voice in government and how much federal funding our communities receive for health care, food assistance, education, transportation, housing, and more. So every infant and child, every foreign and U.S. citizen, everyone matters. For a stronger future, we all need to count. To learn more, go to pa.gov/census.
No fear, just facts. This is WURD, independent black media.
Hey, Dad, your prescription will be ready in just a minute. Hey, Dad, your laundry will be ready in just a minute. Dad, your lunch will be ready in just a minute.
Hey, honey, why don't you take a minute? When you help care for a loved one, you give them as much time as you can. But it's just as important to take time for yourself. AARP can help. Find free care guides to support you and your loved one at aarp.org/caregiving. That's aarp.org/caregiving. Brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
You're listening to Word Radio, 96.1 FM and 900 AM WURD, independent black media. Now, a traffic update on Word Radio.
Pros.com, southbound 95. You're going to find that a busy ride this morning from Common Avenue down through Bridge, jammed up through the ongoing construction. South of that, Allegheny down through Girard to Sloan. Bucks County, southbound 95. That jams 413 down to Street Road. Police activity there in the left lane. Schuylkill Expressway westbound, heavy from Front Street to Penrose Avenue. That is because of ongoing construction. 55 northbound, you're jammed there. Deptford into 42. Mark your calendars. Express Employment Professionals is once again hosting National Interview Day on August 6th. This special event supports hiring as businesses continue to reopen and business ramps back up. Apply online today. Visit expresspros.com/interview day to find the location near you. For more traffic information, log on to signalert.com. Jim Bachman with your Philadelphia area traffic.
Now, a Word weather update. Here's NBC 10 First Alert meteorologist Bill Henley.
Very warm and muggy this morning, and hotter and more humid this afternoon than what we saw yesterday. A high of 97 will feel like 100 to 105 later today. Lots of sunshine. Doing your best to stay cool is going to be a challenge during the day today. We'll drop down into the 70s tonight. Tomorrow, hot, but less humid. A high of 95 degrees with partly sunny skies. A slight chance of a shower on Tuesday afternoon into the evening hours. Then Wednesday, some scattered showers in the afternoon, but another steamy day with a high of 93 degrees. Get the First Alert forecast anytime. Download the free NBC 10 app.
It's Wake Up with Word, hosted by Solomon Jones.
Good morning.
Right now on Word Radio,
96.1 FM
and 900 AM WURD.
Good morning. This is Solomon Jones on 900 AM, 96.1 FM, WURD. And Kawesa is taking a much-needed, much-deserved day off. So we got the boards in Mike's capable hands. He is handling it this morning. And we want to hear from you. Give us a call, 215-634-8065. That is 215-634-8065. That is the number that you can call to get in on the conversation right here at WURD Radio. You can, of course, also weigh in on Facebook and let us know where you are on these various things that we are talking about. Sad news this morning that King Hill, the 2-year-old that went missing earlier this month, it has been confirmed that he has died. And so police believe they know who's responsible. They have not announced that yet. But we are praying for that family, praying for that mother, and all of those who were affected by that. Hug your children, man. Love your children. Hold them close, and do everything that you can to take care of the children in our community, because here's one thing that I think we have to remember. We have to remember that these kids belong to all of us. right? You know, I look at my neighbors' kids now, and they're teenagers now, but I remember, you know, us taking them in when their parents weren't home and calling their parents and making sure that they could be picked up and that they were taken care of. I can remember riding them to different places, taking them to vacation Bible school or taking them to football practice or doing whatever we could, you know, to make a community. In a community, everybody takes care of the children. In a community, everybody watches out for the vulnerable. In a community, everybody works together to make sure that these kids are safe. Like, that's what makes a community. And so I'm glad when I look at them now and I see them graduating from high school. I look at them now and I see them going off to college. I look at them now and I see them driving or going to work or going to vote and doing the things that people do as they grow up. Like, I'm happy to see that because I know that that's the result of a community. And so what we have to remember, man, you know, we take what we can out of these heartbreaking stories, but I think what we have to take out of this is that we are a community, and it's everybody's job to take care of these kids. I want to hear from you. Give me a call, 215-634-8065. That is 215-634-8065. The other thing that's going on is something bizarre coming out of Portland. You've got federal agents apparently in unmarked vans snatching protesters off the streets. This is not a hoax. This is not a conspiracy. This is real. And so you have House Democrats now saying, we want an investigation. What in the world is going on? And, of course, all of it goes back to the Trump administration. And they have some questions about it, and frankly, so do I. Why are federal agents in unmarked vans snatching people off the street who are engaging in their First Amendment right to peacefully protest? What in the world is going on? What country are we in? Is this still America? Is this some other place? Are we back in 1960? Is Portland the Edmund Pettus Bridge? Like, what's going on? I just need to know, and I want to know what you think. Give me a call, 215-634-8065. That is 215-634-8065. That is the number you can call to get in. You can also weigh in on Facebook at onWURD. That's FORWURD, FORWURD, and let us know where you are on these various things that we're talking about on this morning's show. And, of course, story number 3, a story that I think we need to reflect on. John Lewis succumbed to cancer. He died on Friday. And John Lewis, a civil rights icon. And I think that when we look back on the life of John Lewis, what we see is somebody who laid the groundwork for where we are today. Laid the groundwork for Barack Obama's election, laid the groundwork for black people to be in Congress and in the Senate, laid the groundwork for black people to sit on federal benches, laid the groundwork for you to be able to go and eat where you want to. He got his head beat in, man. For you and for me. For us to be able to do the things that we do today. That office job that you got, yeah, thank John Lewis. That college degree that you got, yeah, thank John Lewis. And, you know, as I researched John Lewis, and you can read about him in my column today in the Philadelphia Inquirer, but as I researched and checked out John Lewis, what I realized is that he started, you know, when he was a teenager, man. He wrote a letter to Martin Luther King, said, I need you to help me to get into college. I can't get into college. He was in Troy, Alabama. He wrote to Martin Luther King. Martin Luther King wrote back. Now, John Lewis didn't know King from a can of paint. He just wrote to him on a whim, like, let me just ask Martin Luther King if he can help me. Martin Luther King wrote back to him and sent him a round-trip bus fare to Montgomery, Alabama, and said, come here and march with us. So John Lewis gets there, and he meets him at the First Baptist Church, and King is in the pastor's office. And John Lewis walks in, and Martin Luther King looks up and says, you must be the boy from Troy. John Lewis said, my name is John Robert Lewis, sir, but Martin Luther King just called him the boy from Troy. And that's how their relationship began. So John Lewis eventually marches in Alabama in 1958. and then goes on to be involved in all of the major protests that go on throughout the 1960s. The Freedom Rides, where they burnt down a bus. John Lewis was there, right? You know, trying to desegregate travel accommodations in the South. So there's black people and there's white people riding together on these buses, and they're risking their lives to do it. One of those buses, they burnt the bus to embers and tried to trap the people inside the bus while it was burning. When they managed to get out, they beat the people with bats. That's the Freedom Rides. And what I need y'all to understand is this, right? That there were black people and white people together on those buses, risking their lives to desegregate travel accommodations. So every time you get on a plane, every time you get on a bus, every time you get on a train, thank John Lewis. Every time you use the bathroom and there's no white and black sign on the bathroom, thank John Lewis. Because those Freedom Rides open that up. Every time you eat lunch where you want to, thank John Lewis, because they sat at the Woolworths counter when he was in North Carolina doing this. Sitting at the Woolworths counter, people spitting on them, burning them, blowing smoke in their face, pushing them, doing all kinds of stuff to them. Every time you go to eat where you want to eat, thank John Lewis. See, I don't think people realize, man, the boy got arrested 40 times. Sat in jail in Mississippi for 44 days for having the temerity, for having the gumption, the audacity to say, I want to be treated like a man. I want to be treated like everybody else. I want to be able to go where I need to go. He did that not just for him, but also for his children and for our children. And for, see, this is what I'm talking about. In a community, people look out for each other. And that's what John Lewis did. That's what King did. One of the most profound things that King ever said is that I'm doing this so that my 4 little children, he knew he wasn't going to get it for himself. That's what community is about. So I want to hear from you about that as well. Give me a call, 215-634-8065. That is 215-634-8065. Every time you vote, you better thank John Lewis, because he had his skull cracked on the Edmund Pettus Bridge. They beat him so badly, he didn't even know how he got back to the church where they started that march. He blacked out. Right? So, you know, I don't know if we understand the depths of what people went through in order to get us the rights that we had. And you know, there were black people and white people who worked together in order to get that done. There was a minister, a Unitarian minister, who was killed after that march because he had the nerve to come there and work with people like John Lewis in order to try to get freedom for black people. He went into an integrated restaurant and ate. Right, that night with a couple of other ministers. He comes out, he's jumped, right, and beaten and killed. Right? Gave his life in order for you and me to have the rights that we have. Right? And so I just need us to realize, man, that it took a number of people from different backgrounds in order for us to have the rights that we have. Malik called early. He said, Solomon, you couldn't be on that radio if it wasn't for John Lewis. And he's right. He's right. I want to hear from you. Give me a call, 215-634-8065. And so when you talk about voting, and again, I don't vote because people died in the 1960s. I vote because black people dying right now. But I think we have to understand the history and how we've gotten to the point where we are, how we've gotten to the point where we can actually have a voice, actually have a vote, actually have a say in what happens in America. I'm going to go to the phone lines and talk to Miss Madeline Dunn from Overbrook on line 1. Good morning.
Thank you. Good morning, Solomon. Mm-hmm. And you're doing a terrific job.
Thank you.
John Lewis was one of my favorites. 18, he heard Dr. King on the radio, and he And he had sent letters to all the colleges down there about wanting to come to school. Nobody even responded to his letter. And Dr. King not only inspired to send him a bus ticket and told him where to meet him at. And he was there. And that's when he went into SNCC and took on that the bus ride. This and that. And everything was dangerous. Everything he did was dangerous. When I hear young people, or even older people who don't know our history, say, what is a vote? What does it matter? Don't you understand what it matters by now? You give your life to get this vote. Dr. King and them, they gave their lives. And the South was bad, and the North was twice as bad in a sense. And so when you look at this whole picture, how they have taken away the things that should be taught in school, starting very early, like kindergarten. Teachers used to have books where you make comments about the votes and civil rights and what you expect from that vote and all that kind of stuff. They don't even touch that anymore.
Yeah.
They even took away sewing and cooking and the wood shops. I believe only certain schools won't have them. There's so much been taken away. We just have so much to do.
We do indeed. We do indeed. Ms. Dunn, I want to thank you so much for your call this morning on WURD. We got a guest coming up, and we got W. Curtis Thomas on the line. Good morning, Mr. Thomas. How are you, sir?
Good morning. How are you doing?
I'm doing well.
I just wanted to come in and chime in. John Lewis was an icon. John Lewis is still an icon. But yes, the body has left, but the spirit is still here. And I guess the best way to capsulize where do we go from here is something that was very often said by John Lewis and by Dr. King, and that is the urgency of now. The urgency of now. Section 5 of the Voting Rights Act needs to be amended. The Voting Rights Act needs to be nationalized, not delegated to the states to decide the circumstances under which we should vote. Because as we see across the country, more and more there are restrictions on our capacity to vote. And so in memory of John Lewis, we must complete that journey to make sure that we all are involved in the process and involved in a way that does not disenfranchise our ability to vote. And so I think the first thing that Congress should do, and that is to bring the Voting Rights Act into the 21st century. If not the act itself, Section 5 of the law, so that we can move towards that perfect union that John Lewis talked about.
All right. I want to thank you. That's former State Representative W. Curtis Thomas. Thank you so much. I appreciate you.
Thank you.
All right.
Now.
All right. So we are going to go to break. On the other side, we're going to talk with Freedom Smitty about the time that he spent with John Lewis. I'm Solomon Jones. This is WURD. We'll be right back.
Dietz & Watson has been making premium meats and artisan cheeses for over 80 years. And when it comes to stacking sandwiches and party platters, they've got something for everyone in the family, like maple honey turkey breast, American cheese, buffalo chicken, and more. So get to your local deli and taste 4 generations of family recipes. With Dietz & Watson on the table, you'll have everyone coming back for seconds and thirds. Dietz & Watson, it's a family thing since 1939. Be heard. Want another way to join the conversation?
Follow us on social media
using the hashtag onWURD.
Be heard.
Stay connected to Word Radio.
Independent Black Media.
Listen to Laborers Live.
We created the weekend. We created the 40-hour work week. We just want enough to feed our family, be able to send our children to college, and let our next generation do better than we did.
To people that might have forgot how important unionism is in a country like the United States. People now infringing on our 8-hour workday, trying to work people more than 8 hours without overtime, trying to work people without benefits. In the long run, everybody's getting a fat paycheck except the worker. So this is really a wake-up call for America.
The struggle is continuous. Tune in to Laborers Live every Friday from 4 to 5 p.m. Sponsored by LESIT, the Laborers Employers Cooperation Education Trust of the Laborers District Council of Philadelphia and vicinity.
Local 332, Sam Staten Jr. Business Manager. Local 57, Esteban Vera Business Manager. Local 135, Dan Woodall Jr. Business Manager. Local 413, James Harper Jr. Business Manager. The Laborers District Council, Ryan Boyer Business Manager, and Tony Staten, Executive Director of LESIT.
My mom is stronger than anyone I've ever known. Growing up when life got hard, her strength helped pull us through. Even after her heart failure diagnosis, she remained stronger than ever.
My family's support keeps me strong. Together, we're rising above heart failure.
Heart failure doesn't have to steal your strength. For simple steps you can take to help prevent, improve, or manage heart failure, go to riseabovehf.org.
Now, a traffic update
on Word Radio.
Good morning. This report sponsored by ExpressPros.com. Jammed up southbound 95 first in Bucks County, 413. Down the street, road jam there. It's all because of police activity in the left lane. Once it passed that, you're jammed again in Philly from Cottman down the bridge through construction. Busy again. Betsy Ross through Girard. Northbound 95, no problems. Schuylkill Expressway, westbound, you're jammed off the Walt Whitman Bridge through Penrose Avenue. That is because of ongoing construction. Right lane blocked with that long-term work. No other issues on the Schuylkill Expressway. PA Turnpike, Blue Route 476 look good. 55 north jamming from Deptford into 42. Mark your calendars. Express Employment Professionals is once again hosting National Interview Day on August 6th. This special event supports hiring and businesses continue to reopen. A business ramps back up. Apply online today. Visit expresspros.com/interview day to find the location near you. For more traffic information, log on to sigalert.com. Jim Bachman with your Philadelphia area traffic.
Now, a word weather update. Here's NBC 10 First Alert meteorologist Bill Henley.
Very warm and muggy this morning, and hotter and more humid this afternoon than what we saw yesterday. A high of 97 will feel like 100 to 105 later today. Lots of sunshine. Doing your best to stay cool is going to be a challenge during the day today. We'll drop down into the 70s tonight. Tomorrow, hot, but less humid. A high of 95 degrees with partly sunny skies. A slight chance of a shower on Tuesday afternoon into the evening hours. Then Wednesday, some scattered showers in the afternoon. But another steamy day with a high of 93 degrees. Get the First Alert forecast anytime. Download the free NBC 10 app.
You're waking up
with Word.
Hosted by Solomon Jones.
Good morning.
Right now on Word Radio.
96.1 FM.
And 900 AM WURD.
Good morning. This is Solomon Jones on 900 AM, 96.1 FM, WURD, and I want to welcome you back to Wake Up with Word. Joining us now is our first guest, Kenneth Salam, better known as Freedom Smitty, joins us to talk about John Lewis, Martin Luther King, and Lewis's legacy in the movement. Freedom Smitty, good morning.
Good morning, my brother. How you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you, sir?
Good.
So I want to go back to 1965 because this is when you met Martin Luther King. You were, what, 16 years old?
Yes, sir.
Tell us about that.
Well, it was during the demonstration at Girard College, as you know, May 1st, 1965. The late Cecil B. Moore, attorney, activist, and Martha Point Marine decided to confront the Girard College segregation issue head on. Mm-hmm. Prior to that, the former judge, the late Judge Raymond Pace Alexander, had approached Girard College 10 years prior to that. through the courts, but because of a lot of the language and the wrangling, Cecil decided in '65 that he's going to go right there and confront them. And so May 1st, 1965, early in the morning, the plan was to go there early in the morning and go over the walls, because that was the thing. They didn't want any African Americans in that institution that's set in the middle of an African American community on 40-some acres of land. So anyway, we got up there May 1st, and it started from there. It became the longest demonstration in America at the time, 7 months and 17 days. But in June of that year, Dr. King came to Philadelphia to speak at Girard College, and after Dr. King's speech there, it really got national visibility more, and people from all different people from different cities would begin to start coming to Philadelphia, just like they were going to different cities in the South back then in the '60s. But Dr. King came to Philadelphia, I think it was June the 6th, and he spoke there. And we went to West Philadelphia, 40th and Lancaster. We spoke there, and he did some things, did some rounds in the schools. And while he was here, I got arrested. Me and another sister named Karen Jordan. She's president of the C.C.B. Moore Philadelphia Freedom Fighters, which I'm a member also. We were arrested at 22nd and C.C.B. Moore Avenue. It was Columbia Avenue then. They said that we desecrated the American flag and everything. But my first meeting with Dr. King was it was an honor. And then I left Philadelphia and began to travel into the South, into Mississippi, and work with King and on different marches. And that's how I met John Lewis on the Meredith March. I've heard of John Lewis because he was head of SNCC back then.
Tell us about James Meredith, because these are names that I think a lot of younger African Americans don't know. James Meredith, of course, was a civil rights leader in the South. What happened?
Right, James Meredith. First of all, he was the first African American to integrate the University of Mississippi. And when he applied, the funny thing about it was that when he applied to the University of Mississippi, he accepted him. But when he came down to get his papers, do the paperwork, they said, "Oh, no way, buddy." So anyway, he became the focal point at that time in the country to show the country nationally that there were still race problems in America, especially in desegregating these schools that were primarily exclusively white only. But the University of Mississippi denied him admission, and President Kennedy at the time and Robert Kennedy, who was the Attorney General, they got involved in it, and they had to send federal troops down to Mississippi, to Jackson, Mississippi, to walk him and literally walk him into his classes. He used to walk between platoons, actually, so to get the class. But James Meredith desegregated the University of Mississippi, and through the years, he didn't really get involved in a lot of things proper, but he was always that symbol that things can change in America.
Yeah.
And then fast forward to 1966, he decided to do a walk through Mississippi, because the Mississippi was a real bad state. It's still kind of bad now, no disrespect to anybody thinking it's better. But 1966, Mississippi was one. When I first went to Mississippi in '66, I thought I was on a movie set. I ain't gonna joke, man. I'm not trying to be smart. I thought I was on a movie set in 1845. So Mississippi was a real rough state, So James Meredith wanted to prove to the world that a black man or African American man can walk through the state of Mississippi without fear. So his march, it was called the March Against Fear. But the first day he started out, he started out by himself. He was walking, with the Bible. He was going to walk from Memphis to Jackson. And this joker came out and shot him with a shotgun. Yeah. But unfortunately, he didn't die. But it was such an upsetting event for the other movement or the other leaders and the other organizations that everybody zoomed down to Mississippi to support Meredith and continue the march, and it became the March Against Fear, James Meredith March Against Fear, and we walked from Memphis, Tennessee to Jackson, Mississippi. It took us over a month to get there, 225 miles, and they gassed us, beat us, but it was a rough march, but we made it.
And John Lewis was there, so
John Lewis was there. John Lewis wasn't there at the beginning of the march. He came later, because there was always something going. There were always fires going on all around the country. And being the head of SNCC, and SNCC, the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, was such a powerful weapon back then, for our people to fight against the segregation and discrimination, etc. So John Lewis, he was all over the place all the time. He wasn't a guy that they would just pick, just be one place. But he eventually came to the march and joined the march in Mississippi. I don't remember that day we marched. But he did come and he marched, and that was my first opportunity meeting him up close. I saw him from a distance, or I was probably in the same city he was in. But that was my first. But John Lewis was a very serious young brother, man. I mean, he was. Everybody was serious. Stokely was young. Rat Brown. He was young. You know a lot of me now. But they were young. It was all young. Doc was 30-something. So, but he was very serious about what was happening. And one of the things I admired about John, man, I mean, when he set up those lunch counters and let those people, they would smack them, smash eggs on them, and pour coffee on them, just to get the right to sit there and have a lunch after you shopped in after you shopped in the store. You want to take a break and get something to eat. A lot of people don't realize the comfort and the ease that they have now of being able to stop and get a lunch. But people got hurt and people got, locked up just to get that simple right to have a snack in a public store. But John was he had a lot of heart, and he was an inspiration. He was an inspiration to me and other young people, because, he was 80 years old. I'm 71, so he inspired me, to continue. But he was a fighter. And one of the things that upset John was, during the mid-'60s, that the language or the narrative of the movement starts to change. I always like to call it the human rights movement. Civil rights, yes, but I was fighting the right to use a darn bathroom. That's a human need, So I always say I'm a civil rights / human rights. I was fighting for human rights as well. But John Lewis, man, he was head of SNCC. And his language was real close to Dr. King's language of nonviolence. We're going to overcome, et cetera, et cetera. And then Stokely, came in, and his narrative began to change. Yeah. And he wanted to talk, more about the black power. He said, it's not just we want jobs. We need black power. Just like today, the cry is Black Lives Matter. And people could not accept that term, because the national leaders like Floyd McKissick, Whitney Young, and Roy Wilkins, and them guys, their narrative was still more of, let's not irritate this thing too much, but we will directly confront them through the courts and through demonstrations. But Stokely Carmichael and Willie Ricks, real guy who's an unsung hero too, His thing was he was always talking about, black power, and Stokely kind of picked up on it on the march. Yeah. And on the James Meredith March, that's where he really came out with it. We were in Canton, Mississippi. Okay. And Dr. King, each day we would pitch a tent, because we was walking every day. Yeah. So at nighttime we would pitch a tent, we have all our food or whatever. And we got to this area, this school, and African American school for that matter, and we was trying to pitch our tent on the lawn, like on their property. Yeah. And the Mississippi State Troopers said, "No, y'all gonna keep moving. No, you're not gonna do this." So we said no. So everybody started, we locked on. Everybody started singing, "Pitch the tent, pitch the tent, pitch the tent." The next thing you know, you hear the sirens, state troopers coming, and then you see the Dr. King and Stokely Carmichael up on this truck something like a U-Haul truck. It was carrying supplies in. Yeah. They were up on the truck, right? And they were hollering, they stop, we're going to pitch the tent. And then tear gas start coming, and anybody know anything about that tear gas, boy? That tear gas, when you see people in the movie and that police shoot that tear gas in that house and they still in there, that's a lie. You know what I mean? That tear gas, it sucks the air. It sucks the air around you. Okay. Wherever you are, you try to find fresh air. But anyway, the tear gas and everything, and Doc, that day he got hit with the tear gas. He fell. We picked him up and took him across the road, and because one of the things with tear gas, we were trained that when you're getting hit with tear gas, you lay down flat on the ground, and you can't be rubbing your eyes because it just irritates it, Okay. But anyway, Stokely Carmichael started hollering Black Power right there in Canton, Mississippi. And the then that became a national. It went well. What the press was there naturally, and it made it seem like there was a conflict between the nonviolent movement because they associated Black Power with violence rather than Black Power with the right to own things or the right to have
economic power.
Right? They didn't see it that. And because they controlled the media, it's like I was saying to you yesterday. I don't mean to get off on a tangent here. I was saying to you when you called me yesterday.
Yeah.
One of the things I admire about you and WRD is that you use that station as a narrative to create a narrative and to establish narratives. And in the '60s, we only had one station that really did that, which was what George Woods was on, and he did what you do. He talks about things. He rallies the people around issues, and that's the power of media. So since we didn't control the media back then, they was able to write the narrative of what Black Power was or what Black Power wasn't. But Stokely Carmichael became he wasn't the father of Black Power, but he became the one historically known now as the one who started talking about Black Power. What really was Willie Ricks, like I said, the unsung hero who began to really talk about who was part of SNCC, and Stokely and Stokely were close.
Wow,
but,
wow. Freedom Smitty, we gotta go. We gotta go to break. But man, I thank you because you're a walking history book. No, you a walking history book, bruh. We appreciate you.
I appreciate you too, Brother Solomon.
Thank you so much. And I appreciate you joining us this morning on WURD just to share just a snippet of that history. We appreciate it, man. We are going to go to break, and on the other side, we are going to continue the show right here on WURD.
If you want to start your morning with mindfulness, motivation, and inspiration, tune in to Daybreak with me, Helana, here on WURD Radio, Monday through Friday from 6 to 7 a.m. I'm a health and wellness coach with over 15 years experience helping people to transform their lives. On the show, we talk health and wellness 360, from getting your mind right to getting your money right. So let's rise and shine together right here on WURDradio.com, 96.1 FM, 900 on your AM dial on Daybreak every morning.
In Pennsylvania, everyone counts, and everyone needs to participate in the census. Our population count determines our voice in government and how much federal funding our communities receive for health care, food assistance, education, transportation, housing, and more. So every infant and child, every foreign and U.S. citizen, everyone matters. For a stronger future, we all need to count. To learn more, go to pa.gov/census.
This message is from the Philadelphia Department of Public Health. COVID-19 is still a threat in our communities, but we can all do something simple to help stop the spread. It's critically important to wear a mask or face covering whenever you're in public or around others. Yes, even while social distancing. Wearing a mask shows you care for yourself and your community and is essential to slowing the spread of COVID-19. So love yourself, love your neighbors, wear a mask.
The coronavirus continues to affect us all, and AARP is here in Philadelphia, actively supporting you and your community. Every day, they're providing trusted information from experts, working to protect people from fraud, supporting family caregivers, and making it easier for neighbors to help neighbors through the new AARP Community Connections website. Learn what AARP is doing to connect and support our community during this unprecedented time. We may be apart, but we're not alone. Click to connect at aarp.org/near you.
This is Word Radio, 96.1 FM and 900 AM WURD Philadelphia.
Independent Black Media.
It's Wake Up with Word, hosted by Solomon Jones. Right now on Word Radio,
96.1 FM
and 900 AM WURD.
Good morning. This This is Solomon Jones on 900 AM, 96.1 FM, WURD, and I want to welcome you back to Wake Up with Word. Joining us now is Patrick Rucker. He's a senior correspondent with the Capital Forum. He covers Wall Street finance and the housing industry. He joins us to talk about the Trump administration shelving discrimination probes into Bank of America and other lenders. Patrick Rucker, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
So, when did these discrimination probes start, and why did they start?
Well, the one that we focus on is in Philadelphia, where these examiners, and this is a bank regulator a lot of folks probably haven't heard of, it's called the Comptroller of the Currency, but they have a big role in making sure that not just banks don't fail, but that they're lending fairly, and that African Americans and Hispanics and everyone that's entitled to getting a loan, qualifies for a loan, gets a mortgage, gets a car loan, gets what they're due. And sometime around, this is an incident from a couple years ago, where it was 2018, the spring. In Philadelphia, these examiners were looking at home loans of Bank of America, and whatever it was that they saw, and we know more about the process than whatever this discrimination was, would alarm them. But they saw something that made them raise their eyebrow, and they went and called lawyers and said, hey, we see something here that's really troubling. We think that the bank is redlining. And of course, that word means, I think everyone who's listening knows what that word means. It goes back from banks carving up neighborhoods and saying, we're not going to lend here. And so this exam continues. They call in lawyers. It's getting more intense. It's getting more scrutiny. And somewhere along that process, Bank of America steps in, says, if you want to keep asking questions, we want to have our lawyers in the room, even when you're talking to our employees, which you can imagine. If you're an employee, you might know something. You're an employee of Bank of America. Suddenly, it's not just the regulator you're talking to, but your employer's in the room looking over your shoulder and scrutinizing what you're saying. So for us, the reporting shows that the bank stuck its chest out, started to get involved in this investigation, and within a short period of time, it was gone.
And so did it start under the Obama administration? Did it start under the Trump administration? When did it start?
Well, this work should be happening, on an ongoing basis. It's just a matter of whether or not they're going to do a good job or a lousy job. And under the Obama administration, there were many more times that they detected unfair lending, and they sent it up the chain to the Justice Department, to other agencies, and got heavy with these banks that were discriminating. In the last 4 years, as we report, these examiners are doing their work quietly. It's all confidential. No one knows about it. If it weren't for some sources that thought this was important and wanted to expose what was happening. But in the last few years, as we show in these 6 cases, they just snuffed them out. The investigation got started. The examiner saw something that raised alarms, and often they concluded there was discrimination. African Americans being charged too much in Texas. In another case, they just were not, other parts of the country, they were not getting access to credit. And all this is happening behind closed doors, and it got snuffed out behind closed doors. So as we show, yes, this is in the last 3 or 4 years that this got more, and they're not paying attention to these cases.
Okay, so the banks stepped in and had their lawyers there. Who made the decision to stop the investigation?
This is all under a fellow who's now retired. His name is Joseph Otting. He was a colleague of Steve Mnuchin, the Treasury Secretary. These are all the Trump appointees. We don't know if he got personally involved in this. We asked, tried to speak to him. He declined. We talked to the bank. They declined. He essentially was stonewalled by everyone besides the people that had some information about this early investigation. Everyone else just declined to comment. But somewhere up in the chain, Trump appointees, Trump officials, folks that they answered to Trump and his officials decided this was not going to go anywhere.
Okay. Now, what other banks were being investigated where they stonewalled or stopped these investigations? We said Bank of America. What other ones were there?
That would be the only one that I think your listeners would be particularly familiar with. But just to explain it, there was a bank around Chicago called ND Financial, which is now owned by Fifth Third. There's a bank down in Texas called Cadence Bank. There's a lender in around Richmond and Pennsylvania called Fulton Bank. The story, which is readers or listeners can find online at ProPublica.com. We'll see it. We get into all of these instances. Bank of America and Philadelphia would be the one I think that would be the most familiar to people.
Mm-hmm. Now, in terms of what specifically rang alarm bells, what kind of behaviors were these banks engaging in?
When it comes to Bank of America and Philadelphia, all we know is what typically sets off alarms is either there's denying credit against minorities in a way that's conspicuous and doesn't look right, or the price that they're paying is too high. We don't know exactly what it was that set off the alarms. We know more about the fact that within a short period of time, the questions just weren't being asked anymore. But in the other cases, it was. I'll give you an example. Like so in Texas, this was a case where people want to go in and they've got part of their mortgage paid for, but they need this. It's called a piggyback mortgage, and it's for the share of the mortgage that you haven't borrowed against already. African Americans had to pass this essentially a wealth test. They had to have a certain amount of like cash income or available cash to qualify for the loan than white borrowers. That was the finding of these examiners. Went on for quite a while that internally they were debating this, and the bank said, no, you're looking at this the wrong way. But they, after more than a year, they finally said, no, this is out of order and this is an offense. But it just nothing has happened in that case. And I will say this: there is a chance that in all these cases they could get dusted off. Now with some attention that's been put on them, the Justice Department, this regulator might end up doing something. But until this point, no one had known anything about this before these sources came forward and this reporting was done.
So we have listeners all over the country. So tell us about what happened with the bank in Chicago.
Yeah, in Chicago. So this is a bank called ND Financial.
Yes.
Again, now owned by Fifth Third Bank, Ohio Bank. This Midwest lenders. And they essentially the question was ND Financial lending to Latinos and women in and around Illinois in the same way that they were to whites, and the conclusion was they were not.
Okay.
This went up to the Justice Department, went to Attorney General William Barr's office. Again, we don't know if he was personally involved, but certainly every attorney there answers to him. And within a short period of time, they said, you know what, we're not gonna do anything with this matter, and it was just petered out. And that was all about 2018.
Okay, and we can find all of this on ProPublica.com. Is that correct?
That's right.
All right. Well, I want to thank you so much for joining us this morning on WURD. Again, that's Patrick Rucker. He's senior correspondent with the Capital Forum, covers Wall Street finance and the housing industry. Joined us to talk about the Trump administration shelving discrimination policies into Bank of America and other lenders. Patrick, have a good one.
Thank you.
All right. So we want to hear from you. Give us a call, 215-634-8065. That is 215-634-8065. That is the number you can call to get in on the conversation right here at WURD Radio. Let us know where you are on these various things we are talking about on this morning's show. 215-634-8065. That is 215-634-8065. You know, I'm listening to him, man. It sounds like an experience I had where, you know, they wanted me to have all this stuff. And I'm like, y'all asking an awful lot of questions. It's almost like when you're black, they are trying to find a reason to deny you a loan, right? No matter what your credit score is, no matter how much money you make, like they're still trying to find a way to deny you a loan. And it's interesting because, you know, I went to a bigger bank, had those issues, and then went to a smaller institution and got a better loan than I would have gotten from the bigger one. So it's interesting, man. I think that, you know, as black folks, we kind of experience this stuff and just kind of, you know, think that, oh, well, maybe it's this, maybe it's that. No, maybe it's racism. I want to hear from you. Give me a call, 215-634-8065. That is 215-634-8065. That is the number you can call to get in on the conversation right here at WURD Radio. Let us know where you are in these various things we are talking about on this morning show. You can also weigh in on Facebook at onWURD. That's FORWURD, FORWURD, and let us know where you are on these various things we're talking about on this morning's show. Let's go to the phone lines. Rita from South Philly's on line 1. Go ahead, Rita.
Oh, talk about one of my favorite subjects.
Mm-hmm.
Banking. Well, I'm African American. When I had that high credit score, I ain't had no problem. Sign here and leave. Walk. That's right. Now I'm black.
I think it depends. I think it depends on where you go because I've had that experience too.
I've been to all.
I've had that experience too. When I walked in with my highest credit score and they offering me all kinds of stuff, and I'm like, bet, okay, I don't need all that. Just give me this. Right. But I've also had an experience where I had a high credit score and they start asking a whole bunch of questions.
Well,
so, you know, as an African American.
Here's what you're moving into. If you don't have any money, you can't. You really won't be able to buy anything. Now, I'll give you an example.
So let me ask you this, Rita. Suppose you're looking for a mortgage, right?
Right.
And you got half the money. Right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And you have a high credit score.
Mm-hmm.
Should you get the best rate and should you get the loan?
Of course you should.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm just asking because.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
All right.
There's another thing that they're doing now. If you go to a personal bank, Bank of America, borrow, say, whatever, about $10,000.
Mm-hmm.
Go back, pay off your credit cards. They're going to penalize you 20 points on your credit score. Because you borrowed the money from the bank and paid off your credit card. This has gone too far.
See, that's not my experience. I just paid off a credit card and my credit score went up, not down. So I don't know.
No,
what do you mean?
New.
What do you mean?
This is new. They
Since
get
when?
ready to start it now. This is new.
Okay, because that's not actually what's happening.
They already just started. But here's the thing.
I don't think that's true, Rita. I think if you pay off a credit card and keep the credit card, your score goes up, not down. I'm pretty sure that's how it goes.
No, let me say this here, Solomon. What did I say? I said if you borrow the money, personal loan, okay, they can see if you went to Bank of America. If you take that money and pay off your credit card, you will be penalized. Now, if you already have the money in the bank, it's your money. That's what they're talking about doing. And that is crazy because what you do with that money, as long as you pay that money back, is your business.
See, I think that's interesting, Rita. Let me just let's talk about that because I think when you borrow money, right? When you have more money that you've borrowed, and they can see that on your credit score, that you've borrowed more money, then your credit score, of course, is going to go down. But when you pay off a credit card, your credit score goes up. So that should be a wash. That should be. Okay, you borrowed money, you borrowed more money, but you use that money to pay off debt. Right. And so your debt-to-income ratio doesn't go up, so your credit score shouldn't really be affected that much. But you're saying it's different now.
This is what they're talking about doing. And see, let me tell you something. When these bankers that's running this credit bureau talk about stuff, you get your behind in gear and you get on this stuff now. As long as you pay back that money, that personal loan, it's nobody's business who you give that money to, what you do with that money. What they were saying, they found out that people really didn't have the money and was paying off trying to get a better credit score, and then they ran and they you know, excuses. But the thing about it is this here. Now, here's what else needs to be done. This needs to be stopped. You have to have a good credit rating to have certain jobs, good paying jobs. You have to have a high credit score.
That's true.
To get that job.
That's true.
Now, I can understand if you work in the bank. I've worked in the bank, but that's really not. I don't think. Sometimes when you're poor, you're a good person. So I think it should be kind of broken up because people run into trouble. You know. In other words, people have problems. That don't mean that they thieves and criminals and all that kind of stuff. But people are being penalized. They need to break that up. That you have to have a high credit score in order to get a good paying job. That's not right, Solomon. It's been going on for years and nobody did anything about it. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I do. No, you're right.
Does not tell what kind of person you are.
That's true.
You see what I'm saying? You might be old, mean, nasty person with a high credit score. Now I got a mess. You see what I'm saying?
I do.
But it's just another way to shut the door in your face. That's all it is. And, you know, people going crazy. But, Solomon, I have some bad news.
Okay.
They said Little King is dead.
Yeah.
Little baby. Solomon?
Yes.
Who did it? What sicko would kill an innocent baby? That child hasn't done anything. He's in heaven now, playing, you know, stuff like that.
Yeah.
But I want this person punished, or people punished for what they did to that baby.
Yeah.
Now, you're a minister. You can feel. We all thought that the child was here. We didn't want to accept it. We still don't want to accept it. Maybe they made a mistake. I hope they did. The child's still alive. But what sicko killed this child? There's no reason to kill him. He was such a sweet little baby. He was going to be a fine man, too. Woo! He had them women fighting.
Yeah, it's a shame. It really is a shame. And I want to thank you, Rita, for your call this morning on WRD. I want to thank you. You know, I just think that we have to watch out for these babies. The babies are vulnerable, man. And we have to be very careful about who is watching our children, where our children are allowed to go when we're not there. We have to be very careful about that. And you know, some of us are in a position where we don't have a whole lot of people to help us with our children. But that's where neighbors have to step in. That's where family has to step in. That's where we have to do everything we can to make sure that our children are safe. And so, you know, the story of King Hill is instructive, man. We have to do everything that we can as a community to watch out for these babies. We're praying for that family. But it's a sad story, but it's one that should be a cautionary tale, I think, for all of us. I'm Solomon Jones. This is WURD. On the other side of this break, we'll continue with the show. We'll be right back.
Weather and traffic to keep you informed for your drive home.
In the happy hour
with Sincerely Sarita.
Monday through Thursday, 4 till 7 p.m.
Right here
on Word Radio, 96.1 FM
and 900 AM WURD.
For over 115 years, Philly's top sandwich pros have always started the exact same way, Amoroso's. Why Philly's sandwiches are world famous. During these unprecedented and challenging times, Amoroso's would like to thank its customers and its associates for their hard work and dedication as they continue to feed our community. This too shall pass, and Amoroso's will be by your side and on your table now and for generations to come. Want to make the very best sandwiches? Always start with the very best. Amoroso's.
Word Radio, 96.1 FM and 900 AM
WURD.
This is Kelvin Jeremiah, President and CEO of the Philadelphia Housing Authority. At PHA, we remain dedicated to serving our more than 80,000 residents during these challenging times. We have been providing masks to all PHA residents and access to healthy meals for kids. Our offices are closed to keep everyone safe, but residents can pay their rent online at pha.phila.gov. The Philadelphia Housing Authority is opening doors to opportunities.
Why is Connor having trouble focusing in school?
Having trouble finding Connor's middle school? Would you like directions?
No, why is Connor having trouble focusing in school?
Finding lowest airfare to Istanbul.
No, I'm tired of fighting with him over homework.
home, walk, restaurant. Need a review?
No, I need help. He's very smart, but his mind wanders. He's disorganized.
I think I understand.
Oh, good.
Finding best potatoes for French fries.
No!
Russet, fingerling, Yukon Gold.
Why don't you understand me?
Sorry, I was trying to show how Connor feels every day. Frustrating, isn't it? Redirecting to understood.org.
For the 1 in 5 kids with learning and attention issues, this is what life can feel like. Explore understood.org, a free online resource about learning and attention issues, designed to help your child thrive in school and in life. Understood.org, because understanding is everything.
Brought to you by understood.org and the Ad Council.
Now, a word weather update. Here's NBC 10 First Alert meteorologist Bill Henley.
Very warm and muggy this morning, and hotter and more humid this afternoon than what we saw yesterday. A high of 97 will feel like 100 to 105 later today. Lots of sunshine. Doing your best to stay cool is going to be a challenge during the day today. We'll drop down into the 70s tonight. Tomorrow, hot, but less humid. A high of 95 degrees with partly sunny skies. A slight chance of a shower on Tuesday afternoon into the evening hours. Then Wednesday, some scattered showers in the afternoon. But another steamy day with a high of 93 degrees. Get the First Alert forecast anytime. Download the free NBC 10 app.
Now, a traffic update
on Word Radio.
Good morning. This report sponsored by ExpressPros.com. Getting jammed around the area. Schuylkill Expressway westbound. You're jammed off the Walt Whitman Bridge through Penrose Avenue. Right lane construction is the reason. A heavy ride there. Southbound 95 first in Bucks County. Busy 413 to Street Road. Right lane blocked there because of construction. South again jammed up Cotman down the bridge. Down to 3 lanes with that work. Ross through Girard, a busy ride. Northbound 95, no major issues there. Westbound Vine Expressway, that jam's actually from the Ben Franklin Bridge. You're jammed up on the downside of the Ben Franklin Bridge. That goes to the Vine Expressway at Broad Street. All because of a disabled vehicle there off to the left lane, causing that jam up back to the Ben Franklin Bridge. Schuylkill eastbound, Montgomery through Spring Garden, slow westbound, also delays Belmont through Gladwin. 55 northbound, still busy there. 55 through 295. Mark your calendars. Express Employment Professionals is once again hosting National Interview Day August 6th. This special event supports hiring as businesses continue to reopen and business ramps back up. Apply online today. Visit expresspros.com/interview day to find the location near you. For more traffic information, log on to sigalert.com. Jim Bachman with your Philadelphia area traffic.
Home of the Happy Hour. The Happy Hour. With Sincerely Sarita. This is Word Radio. 96.1 FM and 900 AM WURD Philadelphia.
Streaming live at wordradio.com and on the Word Radio app. Back by popular demand.
It's Wake Up with Word. Hosted by Solomon Jones. Right now on Word Radio.
96.1 FM
and 900 AM WURD.
Good morning. This is Solomon Jones on 900 AM, 96.1 FM, WURD, and we are back, and we've been talking a lot about our children this morning on Wake Up with Word, and one of the things that is an issue now is what's going to happen with reopening schools, given that we are dealing with the novel coronavirus, otherwise known as COVID-19, 140,000 Americans dead from that virus, millions of people infected with that virus, and you're talking about sending kids back to school. There are a lot of people with concerns about it. And joining us to talk about it this morning is Cheryl McFadden. She's a teacher in the Philadelphia School District. Cheryl, good morning.
Good morning, Solomon. How you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm great. Enjoying my summer.
That's good. That's good. They get ready to try to take your summer away and put y'all back in those schools now.
Solomon.
Tell us about some of the concerns that you have about that.
Okay. My concerns are many. One of them is just cleaning every 4 hours. So what does that look like, and why every 4 hours? Because if we're going back into school, see, teachers will be there for 4 days. Children will only be there for 2 days because we're splitting, I guess, the children. So if I'm transitioning children in my classroom to teach for 3 or 4 periods a day because we do blocks, then don't I need to clean the room after each transition? Shouldn't the room be clean? And even though Dr. Height said it's going to be a group effort, okay, so that means I need to wipe down the tables, wipe down the chairs, and I know you can get the children to do it, but we all know that children do not always do a good job. So it would be still incumbent upon the teacher to follow behind the student just to make sure that they wipe down the chair, they wipe down the desk. If there were any pencils left, we can't use pencils, so, things have to be put in the trash, so we have to do things differently. So who's cleaning? The teachers are. And so it means that we need a break between transitions to get the room ready.
So, and then the question is, how long is that break, and what are the kids doing while you're engaged in that break to clean the room?
So I only know what's been in the paper, Solomon. We're having a meeting today. Our union leadership, we're having a town hall at 12 o'clock. Unfortunately, the union wasn't in the room when this plan was devised. So, so they're talking about, and you got to remember, I think people sometimes think when they make a general assumption about school, they think about small children. High school is different. High school is very different. Children are transitioning in and out. They have different lunch periods. Some of them, particularly the seniors, might have a work roster. And then I work in a career technical education school. So that's a whole another level of consideration. Our children are preparing for careers in the future. So what about them? What about the children in their senior years when everything is hands-on? So where are they at when we're so if we do need a 10-minute break, because normally it's 3 minutes for transition in a high school. A child has 3 minutes to get from one class to the next. So if I had 3 minutes to clean a room, and they'll probably say, well, you should stop teaching 5 minutes before the bell, which gives me 8 minutes to clean the room. But I'm trying to clean the room, or I'm going to get the 12 children to help me clean the room. And what if the children don't want to clean the room? And then what if the children start playing? You understand? There is so much could go wrong with the children cleaning the room. And then teachers are also concerned about this, the fact of the mask. And children may not want to wear their mask. And, we know how children get because we see them now. I see them at the basketball court. I see them out on the street. I see them everywhere I go. The children do not want to wear the mask because they do not believe it. They think that they're invincible. I just read an article last night about the super spreaders.
Right, people who don't know they're infected.
And they also, the super spreaders, not only do they not know they're infected, but they have a higher rate of the viral load. There are some people who can be asymptomatic and have a low viral load. So they might be around 10 or 5 people, and no one will catch it from them. But then there could be someone who has a high viral load, and this was my understanding from reading the article, and and I love to hear from the doctors, that they can be around 87 people, and 86 people will become infected. So you have these variables, and then you have a school district where 72% of the staff is over 50, and I fall into that group. Okay? And then you look at, we're over 50, and then you look at us who have an underlying condition. Guess what, Solomon? I fall into that group, and I'm not the only one. Because you have to consider asthma, diabetes, heart disease, lupus, rheumatoid arthritis. You have others, you have all these things you have to think about. And the district never once said anything about testing all teachers. Why not give us a test just so we can at least feel good going in? Because Lord knows it's hard to get a test out here on the street.
Yeah, I think there are a lot of concerns. So, I mean, so what do you think? What do you think the answer is?
Honestly?
Yeah.
I think we need to wait. We need to slow down because these surges are coming back. And I do, Solomon, and I want everybody to hear me. I do understand the need to get the children back in school. I love being in school. I was a senior sponsor. I've been a senior sponsor. So can you imagine? And Solomon, you already know I kept texting you to find out what was going on with your daughter because she was a senior and there was nothing, there were all these haphazard decisions regarding cap and gowns, shoes, graduation, is it on, so do you not think I don't want to be around the children? I love my children. I honestly love my students. And I know my students love me because they know I love them. You understand? So it's not like I don't want to go back. But, Solomon, I didn't sign up for this.
Yeah.
I did not sign up. That's called the police and the Army and the military. I did not sign up to protect and serve. I signed up to love and educate.
Yeah. Yeah. And so when you look at the rush to bring children back into the schools, I mean, where do you think that comes from? It is a local decision. Certainly there's some push from the federal level. But where do you think that comes from?
It has to come from the federal level because I don't understand. And then also, okay, you really want me to tell you what my conspiracy theory is?
Oh, Lord.
You want me to tell you?
Okay.
They don't have the technology. Because we felt the pain of it when we had to leave suddenly on March the 13th. Okay? So, look, that it it exposed a whole lot of inequities, inequality. It was a debacle. Okay? Because we had to wait for how long? 6 weeks before we began instruction. And we began instruction for 6 weeks, so the kids lost 6 weeks. And then we still had issues with families who did not have the internet, parents who may not have been able to be home to help their children, parents doing the best that they could. Was that not a debacle? I don't care if a majority of the families have internet. Then what happens to the minority of families who don't have internet? What happens, Solomon? And the parent can't go pick up a packet. What happens? What happens to when the child is already a struggling reader and I'm asking him to read this text and I can't be there with him because maybe he feels that, and I get all that. But these things. You got a whole summer to prepare for how can we accommodate. It's called making accommodations. How can we accommodate the families who are struggling? How can we get those children those mobile hotspots they need? How can we work with the city to get the libraries open? And maybe we can get, we could get somebody to go in. I don't know, Solomon. But you cannot expect us to be in the classroom. And at first, they wanted 3 feet. But Wolf came back and said, no. It has to be 6. And the average classroom is about 600 square feet. It's that.
And so now you have to have about half the kids in the classroom, not even half, probably less than half the kids in the classroom that you normally would.
It could be for some schools a third.
Right. And so what do you hope will happen in this meeting that you guys are having today as you look at what the union has to say about going back into the classroom?
Well, I definitely hope that Jerry Jordan listens to us and takes our demands because, first of all, the cleaning a room every 4 hours is just not going to get it, particularly when you have a virus that can stay in the air. and the virus just lingers. And children talk and they're not going to have masks on. And, we still have to deal with the issue of the mask. What happens when a child refuses to wear their mask? Can you tell that child, well, you got to go home? Look, we can't even send them home when they get suspended sometimes. So are you going to send the child home not for wearing a mask, or are you going to supply the child with a mask? And what if the child says, I don't wear a mask? My mom says I don't have to wear the mask. Okay? Because you know that's coming. You know that's coming. And then the district is giving, you know how many masks they're giving us?
How many?
One. They're giving us one mask. At least Jersey are giving their teachers 5 masks. We get one mask to wash ourselves, to wash. So we get one washable mask. So we're already in buildings that are poorly air conditioned, that do not have any type of, what do you call it, ventilation. But in this case, we may not want ventilation, because if the coronavirus is airborne and the air conditioners are on, then we're going to need a great filtering system. So, my colleagues and I, we were talking about, well, I'm going to go buy me this HEPA filter. Well, it was, so now we're coming out our pocket $200 so that we can get a decent room filtering device. So all these things, and slow it down. The curve is going up. And then we're still finding out that children can be vulnerable. This can impact children.
We're talking with Philadelphia School District teacher Cheryl McFadden about some of the concerns that teachers have in opening the schools back up in the midst of the coronavirus pandemic. Now, we have heard for a long time, Cheryl, that there will probably be a surge of this in the fall, and that's right when children are going back to school. Are you concerned about that?
I'm very concerned. I'm very concerned, because it goes back to, okay, the surge is real for me and you as adults, right? The surge is real for adults and people who know people who've had coronavirus. The surge is not real to children.
Right.
And I can't speak for the elementary teachers. I'm a high school teacher, and I know high school children are different. They're very different. They're very grown. They're very independent. They're very rebellious. And what happens if we have an outbreak in our school? What happens, Solomon? This is why I'm very concerned. What happens if we have 3 or 4 children simultaneously who have COVID, or we have teachers and students who have COVID? You shut down the school, right? You have to quarantine the entire school. But then you also, now you have to quarantine who those children were in contact with.
Right.
And you have to quarantine those people the teacher was in contact with. And then you have to know, so here you have children take the bus, children who take the sub. Are you going to quarantine the sub? Are you going to quarantine the bus? Are you going to quarantine SEPTA because of a few children? And I'm not saying that to diminish it, but that's what happens when you rush back. You just say, oh, well.
Well, we'll be following it closely as we move towards September. We'll see what happens. That is Cheryl McFadden. She is a teacher in the Philadelphia School District. Cheryl, as always, thanks so much.
Oh, Solomon, can I ask you a question?
Yes, you can.
As a parent, are you comfortable with sending your child back to school under these current conditions?
Not yet, no.
Thank you.
All right. I want to thank you for your call this morning. Thank you for joining us this morning. I have a 15-year-old, and my heart breaks for him because I know he wants to play basketball and he wants to go back to school and he wants to, but it's dangerous. It is. And so we got to talk about it. We're going to talk about it on the other side of this break. I'm Solomon Jones. This is WURD. We'll be right back.
Keystone First VIP Choice HMO SNP Dual Eligible Special Needs Plan has a 4 out of 5 star rating and is one of the highest rated Medicare plans in the region. Keystone First VIP Choice and you are better together. If you live in Philadelphia, Bucks, Chester, Montgomery, or Delaware County, and you have both Medicare and Medicaid, choose the Medicare plan that is working to help you get better care. Enjoy extra benefits at no cost to you with Keystone First VIP Choice. You get benefits like dental, vision, and transportation to and from your medical appointments. They also cover a fitness membership to a gym of your choice, $150 toward over-the-counter pharmacy items. There's no copay for doctor's visits. They offer a large provider network, a great prescription plan, dental coverage, and even eyeglasses. Plus, you don't have to wait for open enrollment. You can change your coverage every quarter. Keystone First VIP Choice. The name you trust, the service you deserve. Call Keystone First VIP Choice today at 1-877-686-1760 or visit KeystoneFirstVIPChoice.com. Support independent black media and join the 4Word movement now at 215-425-7875 or visit wordradio.com. Show some love for your favorite neighborhood with Word Radio. It's the Summer of Freedom Virtual Neighborhood Love Tour. Mondays and Thursdays now through August 20th from 1 p.m. till 2:30 p.m. Shining a light on Philadelphia's neighborhoods with a focus on neighborhood history, Philadelphia's freedom fighters, and community resources that are helping to shape the city's future. Mondays with the rapping professor Dr. Aaron Smith and Thursdays with Andrea Lawful Sanders. It's the Summer of Freedom Virtual Neighborhood Love Tour. Mondays and Thursdays 1 p.m. till 2:30 p.m. exclusively on Word Radio. 96.1 FM and 900 AM WURD. Streaming live on wordradio.com, the Word Radio app, and on Word TV via YouTube and Facebook. The Summer of Freedom Virtual Neighborhood Love Tour is sponsored by Wells Fargo and Pico.
Pico has many ways to help you lower your energy usage and save money at home. Here's one. Have an old working fridge or freezer in your garage or basement? Pico will pick it up, dispose of it responsibly, and give you a $75 rebate. That's right, $75. Plus, you can save as much as $150 a year on your energy bill by getting rid of it. Just schedule your pickup at pico.com/recycling or call 1-888-5-PICO-SAVE today. Be sure your fridge or freezer is plugged in and working at time of pickup.
It's Wake Up with Word, hosted by Solomon Jones.
Good morning.
Right now on Word Radio.
96.1 FM.
And 900 AM WURD.
Good morning. This is Solomon Jones on 900 AM, 96.1 FM, WURD. I want to welcome you back to Wake Up with Word, and we're taking your calls at 215-634-8065. That is 215-634-8065. That's the number you can call to get in on the conversation right here at WURD Radio. We're talking about a number of things on this morning's show, including our top three stories. Story number one, the search for 2-year-old King Hill has come to a tragic end. The boy's mother says detectives confirmed Sunday that the child was killed. He was first reported missing earlier this month. Protesters are reportedly being swept off the streets in Portland by unidentified federal agents, and House Democrats are asking questions. In a joint letter, Judiciary Committee Chairman Jerry Nadler and others said the Trump administration appears to have increasingly abused emergency authorities to justify the use of force against Americans exercising their right to peacefully assemble. And of course, story number three, my commentary for the day, in pictures from the march known as Bloody Sunday, a young John Lewis looked like a man who was walking into trouble, good trouble, he called it, the kind of trouble that resulted in beatings and arrests, the kind that could have cost him his life, the kind that ultimately changed America for the better. Lewis, who died Friday from pancreatic cancer, beat the odds more than once in a life marked by good trouble. Now, even in death, Lewis has to beat the odds again. He must not be reduced to a hashtag or a name on a bridge, because John Lewis was bigger than that. I want to hear what you think. Give me a call, 215-634-8065. That is 215-634-8065. Rick Ford's on line 1. Good morning, Rick.
Hey, good morning, Solomon, and to all the listeners. Solomon, I tell you, I've always said it takes a village to raise a child, but what about if the village is sick? So, little King Hill, yesterday at 3 o'clock, the grandmother and the mother called me and told me they wanted me to get there real quick because the detectives or the FBI came and told them that King Hill was killed. So I get there, and my question to them was, we still don't know who the perpetrator is, where King's body, when was he killed, and where's his body. So I'm still, a little messed up a little bit this morning, Solomon. That little kid belongs to this whole Philadelphia.
Yeah.
And, I understand. I spoke with some folks that the police are at a point right now not to release the information, but I think we all want to know. I think everybody's entitled to know who killed Little King, why, and where is the Little King's body. So I'm just a little messed up this morning, so I'm just going to be prayerful. Yeah. They want me to come down here this morning and meet with them about putting, some stuff. I spoke with Stanley, our good friend, brother Stanley Crawford.
Sure.
And we had a long conversation prior to me calling you, and I'm just a little messed up this morning, to be honest, because we were prayerful that Little King, somebody would tell us where Little King was. And watch this, Solomon. We just had a meeting the other day. We had raised a couple $1,000 reward money. Mm-hmm. And we were going to have a press conference with the Citizens Crime Commission, who agreed that they would match the money. And like anything else, we figure like the streets talk.
Yeah.
Well, unfortunately, we won't get to that point, and I'm just a little messed up this morning. I need to be honest. I'm just going to continue to fight and do the things that we need to do in this city. On another note, Solomon, after I left the family, watch this. After we left the family Sunday, only to find out at 33rd and Diamond, I want folks to pay attention to this. There were about 200 people playing basketball. They had a DJ. They had music. They had food trucks. And all this unauthorized, unsanctioned, unnurtured, no water fountains, no one's practicing social distancing. And again, Commissioner from the Department of Recreation, Catherine, I hope you are listening, because super spreaders were there yesterday. Hundreds of people parked illegally in the park. It's crazy.
Yeah, it is crazy. I hear you, Rick, and I want to thank you so much for your call this morning on WURD. And what I'm hoping is that all of that will be taken care of, because we're in a dangerous time. We're in a dangerous time, and the thing that we really have to do, man, is take care of our kids. 215-634-8065. That is 215-634-8065. Only got a couple minutes. That's why I got to move on. Mike from North Philly is online, too. Go ahead, Mike.
Good morning, Solomon. How you doing, Big?
I'm good, brother. How are you?
I'm doing good. It's too late, Solomon. I put my trash out already. I didn't hear
that. Well, you better get it. It's going to feel like 110 degrees today, bruh. You better go get that trash and bring it in the house, put it under some air conditioning.
I can't, because I get off work at 3 o'clock. That trash be on boil by the time.
You know what I'm saying? Look.
And Mr. Ford is not lying. I go past 33rd Street every day away from home, and they out there just everything.
Yeah.
But 3 quick things. The little boy, I'm so sad about that. And
me
the thing
too.
of it is, sometimes when you bring your kids around boyfriends, stepfathers, girlfriends, they are jealous and they will kill these kids.
That's right. That's
Like
right.
the woman did with that child and buried her across the street from Central High School, maybe a couple years ago.
Mm-hmm. Yep, I remember that.
Remember that?
I do.
Another jealous woman. Yep. I tip my hat to C.T. Vivian and John Lewis, and I'm so grateful for them. To be getting beat up, cracked beside your head. But how about Marco Rubio and the other Republican congressperson posting the wrong picture of Elijah Cummings? We all look alike, I guess. Right?
Yeah, I guess we do to them.
And the last thing, Solomon, I'm fixing to take a few days off, right? Find out Kanye West's schedule. I'm gonna jack him up. I'm tired of this minstrel show that he's doing every day.
Foolishness.
So Harriet Tubman took the slaves and made them go for work for other white people. He is going through a mental breakdown. He needs help.
Yeah, he does.
Solomon. That's
He
all I got
does.
for today.
I want to thank you so much for your call this morning on WURD Radio and Kanye West. We're going to get to him and what's trending. I'm trying not to give him too much life, too much attention, because what he's engaging in absolute foolishness, man. Absolute foolishness. But I want to hear from you. Give us a call, 215-634-8065. That is 215-634-8065. Let's go to Sister Murray on line 3. Go ahead, Sister Murray.
Solomon, how are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm great. Thank you so much. And it's good to hear you laugh. We need to laugh at times.
Yeah, we do.
I have 3 things I would like to share with you. Is that okay?
Sure.
Okay. I would like to pay my respects to Congressman John Lewis. I remember when we went to D.C. With Al Sharpton, my husband and I, and we went on a march for Martin Luther King. We met him. He was in a wheelchair as we were all about to leave. And all the young people gathered around him, and we just took pictures and we listened to him as he was beginning to tell us some stories about what was, with the history of Martin Luther King. And so it was breathtaking, and we enjoyed it, and it was an honor to be in his presence. Another thing I would like to share with you is why do the people think that Dr. Fauci doesn't know what he's talking about? This is what he specializes in, right, Solomon?
Yep.
And this man knows exactly what he's talking about. And we need to just fall back a little bit and really take this thing serious. And people are relaxing. They're taking off their masks. They're not wearing gloves. I pray to God that they're continuously washing their hands because, that's a big thing. Also, Solomon, I don't know if the school is sharing with the parents. Are they asking the parents about permission to take these kids back to school? Because they're just found out that 1,000 kids in a daycare just came down with the COVID-19. So I don't know why they don't think that this is going to be transmitted through, especially the little kids, because their nose runs. They don't wash their hands. They dig. They touch everything. And so it's really serious. I think it wouldn't hurt our kids not to go back to school this year at all. They haven't fixed the problems that was occurred before the schools even gotten to March the 13th because we were already dealing with issues in the school, lead and all kinds of stuff. Why don't they just take this year, start building new schools, keep the kids at home, go online, let them go online. Parents been doing great. I know it's hard. But one more thing, Solomon, before I go. In my neighborhood, what I decided to do, because I teach kids too, I decided to parents in my development, come outside, bring your kids, and let's teach them some math. Let them do exercise. Let us do story time.
Mm-hmm.
Only 4 hours.
Mm-hmm.
You go back into your house. So we got to come together and come to a conclusion because we can work this out. This is what black people do. This is what my mom did it. She struggled with 10 kids, but she did it. She made it work. We're all educated.
I hear you. We got to move on, but I want to thank you so much for your call this morning on WURD. Jim from West Philly is on line 4. Go ahead, Jim.
I'm watching out for the military coming. Because they're sending everybody as crazy. I think what they want to do is agitate people and start more riots and all and divert attention from what we need to be doing. And I can't imagine being a person that's seeing the news as if they didn't know about what John Lewis did, the marches and all that you wouldn't get up off your rusty dusty and go to the corner and vote. I mean, why wouldn't you? So I don't have too much to say there. I just feel sorry for the little child. It hurts, and I cannot understand a person that could have it within them. To hurt an infant, a child, what kind of person is that? That's the reason why they don't need to get rid of capital punishment, because they should go the same way that child went. Bless that child, and I pray for him. I hope he's in heaven. Yeah. Thank God.
Yeah, I want to thank you so much for your call this morning on WRD. Patrick from New Jersey is on line 1. Good morning.
Good morning, Solomon. How you doing, man?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. So I actually, had the pleasure of not only meeting John Lewis, but spending the day with him, eating with him, and really getting to kind of know him a little bit when he came over to Camden to support the house in Camden that Dr. King lived at. And I wanted to tell a story about what happened there that day because, you know.
Okay, you got a minute.
Yeah, so 1 block from that spot was where that young girl was shot, 8-year-old girl,
Yes.
a week before that. And as she came walking up the block, you know, me and him were talking about the house and the work, and he noticed right away that this girl was walking, and she had this shirt on with a picture of a baby, and he said, "Who is that?" And I let him know who she was. Well, he immediately beelined for her, held her hands, hugged her, she cried on his shoulder, and then he invited her to spend the day with him. All the other politicians and dignitaries were standing there like a stiff brick while he's shedding a tear and she's crying on his shoulder. So, I mean, to see that in person, you know, and then him to offer his day to her, it was beautiful. And he was not your normal human, even. Just watching that, you know, it was just seeing the other politicians. They should have taken a cue, and hopefully they do, and somebody picks up his torch.
Yeah, I hear you, Patrick, and I want to thank you so much for your call this morning on WRD. We got to go to break. On the other side, we're going to talk with lawyer and critical race theorist Dr. Tim Golden about a new development in the Breonna Taylor case, as well as the legacy of John Lewis. I'm Solomon Jones. We'll be right back.
Do you need health insurance for your children? The Children's Health Insurance Program, also known as CHIP, provides quality, affordable health insurance for Pennsylvania kids. CHIP ensures that kids can go to the doctor, receive health screenings and vaccines, and get what they need to live a healthy childhood. Families can be covered by CHIP no matter how much money they make. If you've experienced a recent change in employment or income, CHIP may be a good option for your family. Visit chipcoverspakids.com to apply or learn more.
Paid for with Pennsylvania taxpayer dollars.
He was the heart of your family, and he taught you our history. He helped you fix your first flat. He was the best backyard DJ around, and every time he'd tell a story, he'd own the room. But now more than ever, he may feel alone. Today, older adults and their loved ones are struggling to connect, in a time when connection has never been more important. But there is something we can do. Embrace our older loved ones through StoryCorps Connect. With StoryCorps Connect, you can honor seniors remotely with an interview about their life. Every interview will be archived at the Library of Congress, becoming part of American history, so that years from now, future generations can listen in.
All right, Grandpa, what's one piece of advice you have for me?
Just 3 words, sweetheart. Live with courage. The man that had the best stories still has plenty of stories to tell. So connect virtually and share the conversation of a lifetime at storycorpsconnect.org/AARP. Connect, honor, share. StoryCorps Connect. A message from AARP, StoryCorps, and the Ad Council.
This is Word Radio.
96.1 FM.
And 900 AM WURD Philadelphia.
Black Talk Media.
You're waking up
with Word.
Hosted by Solomon Jones.
Good morning.
Right now on Word Radio.
96.1 FM.
And 900 AM WURD.
This is Solomon Jones on 900 AM, 96.1 FM, WURD, and I want to welcome you back to Wake Up with Word. Joining us now is lawyer and critical race theorist Dr. Tim Golden. He's professor of philosophy, legal studies program coordinator, and director of the Donald Blake Center for the Study of Race, Ethnicity, and Culture at Walla Walla University. For 20 years, he was a criminal defense attorney in Philadelphia and in the federal courts. Tim, good morning.
Good morning, Solomon. Thanks so much for having me on today.
Yep, it's a pleasure. I want to talk about something we haven't delved into on today's show, and that's a new amended lawsuit from Breonna Taylor's family. She, of course, is the paramedic who was killed when officers from the Louisville Police Department came in, plainclothes, no-knock warrant, and shot her in her house and killed her. But in this amended version of their lawsuit, they say that the officers who shot her did not offer medical assistance, even though she was still alive after they shot her. What does this say about what happens in black communities when policing goes bad?
Well, Solomon, what it says about what happens in black communities when policing goes bad is, if I can use the phrase, black lives don't matter, right? That there's two things about this amended complaint that I think are interesting. One is that the police were acting in concert with some sort of gentrification effort to make way for some major real estate project. Now, these are all allegations, of course, in the complaint. And the other thing that's the problematic, of course, is what you just said, which is that they're alleging now that she was alive for some time and actually could have been resuscitated or got medical attention to prevent her death and didn't get it. And there's two things about that are significant. One is that it gives rise to a possible charge of reckless homicide under Kentucky law, right? That if a person acts recklessly, and in this case the reckless behavior would be not getting her adequate medical attention, that person can be held responsible for a criminal homicide under the concept of recklessness, which basically says that when you disregard a substantial and unjustifiable risk that some harm could come to someone, you are responsible criminally for that conduct. So that's one thing that's significant about this new allegation, that she could have got help. And the other thing is about it that's significant is the tragic, almost cruel irony that she was an EMT, right? That Breonna Taylor tended to people in emergency situations. And what makes this so tragic and so ironically cruel is that if this allegation is true, then you have a woman who devoted herself in her career to saving lives, and there was no one there to save hers. And that's devastating.
Yeah, it is devastating. And so now, you know, in this particular case, as more attention is paid to it, because one of the things that I think happened with the Breonna Taylor case was the timing, that it came at the same time as George Floyd, that we actually had video and saw George Floyd begging for his life as this officer literally put his knee on his neck and squeezed the breath from his body over a period of almost 9 minutes. With Breonna Taylor, there were no cameras, and that's part of the problem.
Yeah, it is part of the problem, Solomon, and it's unfortunate that we don't have any video. From what I understand, is there police body cam footage?
They didn't have body cams.
They didn't have. That's right.
They didn't have body cams on.
So that's a problem, and it's I mean, here's something I need to address, Solomon. I have to say this because it's a problem in the black community. There's a strain of thinking in the black community that society cares more about the deaths of black men than it does about the deaths of black women when it comes to police shooting. And that is deeply problematic. Yesterday, or I think it was Saturday, I forget which day it was, but some point over the past few days, Massachusetts Congresswoman Ayanna Pressley was giving a talk. She was part of a panel discussion, and she's talking about how when we talk about black people, we're talking about black men. When we talk about women, we're talking about white women, and white women are excluded. And that's just false, Solomon. Black men are as outraged at the death of Breonna Taylor as anyone else is. There were 87 protesters in Louisville, Louisville who were arrested, I think last week it was, for going to the Attorney General's house. Many of them were men. And what bothers me about this event where Ayanna Pressley spoke is that she can get away with making a statement like that because the two black men that they have on the panel are Common and Kyrie Irving. These are people who have no connection. There was nobody that was a part of this panel that had any connection to the protesters on the ground in Louisville, many of whom are black men. Many of whom are black men who are out there demanding justice for Breonna Taylor. So we have to get past this false idea that we're somehow decentering or not paying attention to the deaths of black women at the police, and never mind that both Breonna Taylor and Rakia Boyd were killed by police when they were bystanders to bullets that were intended for black men. Right? So and when you look at the statistics, the Washington Post did an expose recently. An overwhelming majority of the people killed in the last 4 years in the black community, unarmed people killed by police, have been black men.
Yeah.
It's been over 14 or 1,500, I believe. So you know, and then of course, as you just mentioned a moment ago, there's this very real notion, not a notion, there's this harsh reality that people saw George Floyd die. Right? And if the situation had been reversed, there would be just as much of an outrage over the death of Breonna Taylor if Derek Chauvin's knee had been on her neck as it would be if it was on George Floyd's neck. So we have to stop it with the gender politics. We have to get past this idea, this false idea of patriarchy and saying that, oh, black men are patriarchs. Solomon rightly understood patriarchy doesn't have anything to do with gender. It has everything to do with race. Patriarchy is a form of solidarity between white men and white women were considered patriarchs around the turn of the 19th into the 20th century because they could give birth to patriarchs, right? But black men or black people were collectively excluded from this idea of patriarchy. So you have a lot of certain strains of feminist thought within the black community that are coming up, and they're talking about this idea that black men are patriarchal, black men are this, black men are that. And when you do that, you impede the visibility of black male vulnerability and victimization. And that's a real problem, because if we're going to talk about Black Lives Mattering, we can't, on one hand, demonize black men with a historically uninformed and ill-conceived conception of patriarchy on one hand that creates the situation that allows for the dehumanization of a George Floyd. So you can't stand up for George Floyd and then buy into a lot of racist tropes about black men that end up creating the conditions that allow for his dehumanization in the first place. So there's a lot of hardcore cleaning up that has to happen within the dialogue in our own community, and the gender politics is extremely divisive. I don't mean to go sort of off topic, but I think all of this is connected as we continue to press for justice for Breonna Taylor. We have to come to a place where we stop dividing ourselves against each other with false ideas that are simply not constructive.
Yeah, I think one of the things that we cannot afford as a community, especially as a community that has been victimized, both men and women in our community, we can't afford to be fighting each other. You know,
exactly.
we cannot afford that. And, you know, I love my sisters, I do. But I think that we have to make sure that we don't adopt white perspectives on our own community. And so we have to be united, man, and we have to be fighting for each other if we hope to win at all. And certainly women haven't gotten their just due in our community, I don't think.
Of course.
But
of course
the
not.
notion that we should be fighting each other, man, I think is just totally wrong.
Right.
You know.
And I mean, we have, as you said, we have adopted a lot of black women in our community have adopted views of black men that sound eerily similar to racist tropes about black men and stereotypes about black men that have been going on for a long time. That black men are rapists, that black men are criminals, that black men are abusive, that black men somehow want to dominate black women in the same way that white men want to dominate, right? And we've adopted this idea, and this is what concerns me. We've adopted this idea from the white community in part because while we've always been suspicious of black men being influenced by black women, we don't have the same suspicion about black women being influenced by white women. And there's an influence of white women on black women that plays itself out in terms of these racist, misandric stereotypes about black men being hypersexual, rapists, criminals, etc. And that kind of thing, as you said a moment ago, we can't adopt those kinds of standards in our interactions with one another because it's just not constructive.
We're talking with Dr. Tim Gold, and he is a lawyer and critical race theorist. About the case of Breonna Taylor, I think part of what happens and what is happening in our community, unfortunately, there have been a lot of us who've messed up as black men. And I think that there's a lot of anger in our community towards each other based on failed relationships, based on people who haven't done what they're supposed to do. I frankly think black men need to be doing more in our community. But this is not to say that all of us are these sorry brothers, because that's just not true. And when that becomes the stereotype, that becomes a problem, I think, for all of us, not just as men, but as women and as a community, man. We got to work together. Black women, man, are just the best thing going, man. I love my sisters. I really do.
Absolutely.
We got to work together, though, man. We have to work together.
Absolutely. I just get a little concerned because respectability politics has a way of making its way into far too many conversations, far too many sermons, far too many places in our community, which are spaces that black men should be able to go for comfort and encouragement. And there's a lot of black men that end up going to church on Sunday, feeling, looking for that, and leave feeling worse than when they came. And that is, it isn't always your fault as a man, especially as a black man. So you're right that our community, brothers have had problems for a long time. Black men have not always treated black women well, and these are problems. But I do think that we get a little bit carried away with how we talk about these things to one another and how we talk about each other to others. And I would just like to see some meaningful dialogue along those lines, because if we don't have some honest conversations that aren't based on pop culture and white standards that we're unconsciously adopting, we're going nowhere fast.
There you go. So I want to talk about John Lewis. John Lewis died, of course, on Friday. An icon in the civil rights movement. C.T. Vivian died the same day. Another person who was a right hand to Martin Luther King during the civil rights movement. When you think about John Lewis, what do you think about in terms of legacy, Tim?
Solomon, I think of resistance. I think of integrity. I think of moral obligation. I watched a clip of him recently where he said he was trying to inspire some younger folks about 3 years ago, And he said, if you see something is wrong, you have a moral obligation to speak against it. And I would hope that now that John Lewis is gone, that we would hold on to that idea, that we would use his memory as a source of inspiration, that his life would do for us what so many other inspirational black people have done, which is give us motivation, give us comfort, give us a sense of inspiration to move forward, because racism in America is not going anywhere anytime soon. So we can take down all the monuments, we can change all the team names that we want, but those are ultimately symbolic gestures that result from the convergence of white interests with the hopes and dreams of people of color and of black people. Ultimately, if we want real change, we have to continue to resist in the same vein that John Lewis resisted. And what that means is pushing for Congress, for example, pushing for Congress to pass legislation to essentially overrule the Shelby County, Alabama versus Eric Holder decision of the Supreme Court from 2013 that gutted the Voting Rights Act of 1965 and named that new law the John Lewis Voting Rights Act. If we want to honor his legacy, then Congress has to act. They have to make sure there's enough votes in both houses to override a presidential veto, and you have to push for that. And if we really want to honor John Lewis, some people were talking about renaming the bridge, the Edmund Pettus Bridge, from that to John Lewis. For one, I would like to see it called the Bloody Sunday Bridge, because that way we'll never forget what happened there. We'll never forget what happened there if we call it that. But beyond changing names, if we just change names and don't have meaningful public policy reforms like this amendment that would undo a Supreme Court decision that has basically put black people all the way back to what it was like before the Voting Rights Act of 1965, then we're just spinning our wheels, Solomon. So when I think of John Lewis's legacy, I think of a legacy of resistance, a legacy of importunity, a legacy of just incessant demanding, not what you think you deserve, but demanding what is legitimately owed to you as a citizen of the United States of America. So that's the one policy change. We can start there, right? We can start with Congress passing some legislation, naming it in honor of John Lewis, that will undo that awful Supreme Court decision from 7 years ago that gutted the Voting Rights Act that he marched for, and name it the John Lewis Voting Rights Act of 2020. I would love to see that happen.
So would I. That is Dr. Tim Golden. He is a lawyer and critical race theorist, professor of philosophy, legal studies program coordinator, and director of the Donald Blake Center for the Study of Race, Ethnicity, and Culture at Walla Walla University for 20 years. He was a criminal defense attorney in Philadelphia and in the federal courts. Tim, thanks so much.
Thanks for having me, Solomon. Take care.
You too. We're going to go to break. On the other side, we're going to continue the show with your calls at 215-634-8065. I'm Solomon Jones. We'll be right back.
Check out the Source lineup
on Word Radio.
Mondays, get ready for the rapping professor, Dr. Aaron Smith. On Tuesdays, it's Andrea Lawful Sanders.
Then on Wednesdays,
it's the Black Women's Leadership Council. On Thursdays, it's a second helping of Andrea Lawful Sanders. And on Fridays, it's Tiffany Bacon.
Don't miss the Source.
Monday through Thursday, 1 p.m. till 4 p.m. and Fridays, 10 a.m. till 1 p.m. Exclusively on Word Radio, 96.1 FM and 900 900 AM WURD.
Streaming live on WordRadio.com and on the Word Radio app. Want the latest in Word swag?
Check out the shop tab on WordRadio.com. Hoodies, tees, and more in a variety of colors. The shop tab on WordRadio.com. Show the world that you're all about black.
Talk Media.
This message is from the Philadelphia Department of Public Health. COVID-19 is still a threat in our communities, but we can all do something simple to help stop the spread. It's critically important to wear a mask or face covering whenever you're in public or around others. Yes, even while social distancing. Wearing a mask shows you care for yourself and your community and is essential to slowing the spread of COVID-19. So love yourself, love your neighbors, wear a mask.
No fear,
just facts.
This is WURD, independent black media.
Backed by popular demand.
It's Wake Up with Word, hosted by Solomon Jones. Right now on Word Radio.
96.1 FM.
And 900 AM WURD.
This is Solomon Jones on 900 AM, 96.1 FM, WURD, and I want to welcome you back to Wake Up with Word. We are, of course, taking your calls at 215-634-8065. That is 215-634-8065. That's the number you can call to get in on the conversation right here at WURD Radio. Let us know where you are on these various things we are talking about on this morning's show, including our top 3 stories, which are story number 1, the heartbreaking story. The search for 2-year-old King Hill has come to a tragic end. The boy's mother says detectives confirmed Sunday that the child was killed. He was first reported missing earlier this month. Story number 2, protesters reportedly being swept off the streets in Portland by unidentified federal agents, and House Democrats are asking questions. In a joint letter, Judiciary Chairman Jerry Nadler and others said the Trump administration appears to have increasingly abused emergency authorities to justify the use of force against Americans exercising their right to peaceably assemble. Story number 3, in pictures from the march known as Bloody Sunday, a young John Lewis looked like a man who was walking into trouble. Good trouble, he called it. The kind of trouble that resulted in beatings and arrest. The kind that could have cost him his life. The kind that ultimately changed America for the better. Lewis, who died Friday from cancer, beat the odds more than once in a life marked by good trouble. Now, even in death, Lewis must beat the odds again. He must not be reduced to a hashtag or a name on a bridge, because John Lewis was bigger than that. I want to know what you think. Give us a call, 215-634-8065. That is 215-634-8065. That is the number that you can call to get in on the conversation right here at WURD Radio. Let us know where you are on these various things we're talking about on this morning's show. Brother Wassett is online too. Good morning.
Hey, greetings, Solomon. How are you?
Good, and you?
Good. Just wanted to add my 2 cents regarding this returning to school issue.
Yes.
I just think that this is a nightmare just waiting to happen. I also believe that this decision regarding bringing back our children in the fall speaks volumes about how our so-called leaders feel about black and brown children. You know, I've been an educator for over 20 years, and I have numerous friends. Actually, I work in the I don't work in the district, but I'm an educator here in Philadelphia. So I have a lot of friends and colleagues in the district, and there is a major problem with discipline and structure in many of the school settings here in Philadelphia. Kind of something that's not spoken about. So given this, how do you enforce the mandatory wearing of a mask and social distancing in such a type of environment? I heard Dr. Heights, and I was listening to some other programming. And do you know, I don't know if you heard about this, but apparently part of the process is that parents are supposed to daily check their children's temperature and then fill out a form and send it into school. you know. And I'm just saying that how does this even get, you know, and in addition to that, parents are also supposed to send in an extra mask with their children every day. Now, in theory, this sounds great, but how do you enforce this type of thing? I heard an interview by Governor Cuomo, who stated that under no certain terms would he allow his children to return to school and be the guinea pig. So I'm wondering, like, what information is Dr. Height listening to? We heard that the numbers are supposed to surge right in the fall. So how do you send the children back to school around the same time that the numbers are supposed to surge? Like, that's to me, that's not even common sense. I am really bewildered by this decision making, and I really have to ask, who are the people at the table helping to make this decision when it comes to our children?
All right, Brother Wassett, I hear you, and I want to thank you so much for your call this morning on WURD Radio. We'll see what happens with that, man. We want to hear from you. Give us a call, 215-634-8065. That is 215-634-8065. That's the number you can call to get in on the conversation right here at WURD Radio. So we're going to go back to the phone lines. And we're also going to check what's happening on Facebook. That's where you can weigh in at onWURD. That's FORWURD, FORWURD. Let us know where you are on these various things we're talking about on this morning's show. We have a couple of people commenting on Facebook. And Cindy Bowman says this: they are not thinking about children with special needs, from autism to having a hearing problem. They are not going to be able to wear a mask. So that's what she has to say. And Lania Porter also weighs in on Facebook regarding the children at school. She says this: good morning. I feel this teacher, talking about Cheryl McFadden. My son wears glasses and trying to keep a mask on and glasses. The challenge is beyond real. My munchkin just started middle school and says he really misses his teachers and friends, but under the current guidelines, I don't know how they can honestly send the kids back safely. So those are a couple of the comments that we have on Facebook this morning. If you want to weigh in on Facebook, you could certainly do that at FORWURD. That's FORWURD. Mary Gilboy says, what are they going to do if all the teachers say, no, we are not putting ourselves and the kids in harm's way? So that's a legitimate question. And I don't know. I don't know what the answer to that is. Regarding John Lewis, Laura Elam says this: when I say voting, it should be for injection sites. It should be whether our children go back to school or not. It should even be who we should appoint for certain leadership positions that that have nothing to do with law enforcement. That comes with a record of who is the best fit, but there are certain issues that it seems like we are not in control of. What is going on in our city? But yeah, we pay taxes, and yet we are the ones that have to pay for it when things go wrong. I think they should have a special election whether or not you want to try to go back to school. So those are some of the comments that we have on Facebook. And we certainly want to hear from you. You can give us a call at 215-634-8065. That's 215-634-8065. That is the number you can call to get in on the conversation right here at WURD Radio. Let us know where you are on all of these things that we are talking about on this morning's show. Halima Malik says this regarding Dr. Tim Golden's comments: African womenists support African men. No gender politics will be used to weaken opposition to white supremacy. Our black men are not my enemy. WSR is my enemy. That's what she said. And I think that stands for white supremacy and racism. So I want to hear from you. Give us a call, 215-634-8065. That is 215-634-8065. Gloria from Sharon Hill is on line too. Go ahead, Gloria.
Good morning, Solomon, the whole Word family. How
Good morning.
are you?
Good, and you?
I'm okay. Yeah, I'm off today. Thank God. Hot. But anyway, you said you covered 4 stories already about the young baby, King Hill.
Mm-hmm.
That's
Yeah.
bad. That's like, be careful who keeps your children. Everybody can't watch your children either.
Yeah,
You know
that's
what I mean?
true. Yeah.
I was funny about my children. Everybody didn't keep my children. No, certain I had certain babysitters, certain family members, and that was it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I knew I could trust them, you know?
Mm-hmm.
That's so sad. I'm so sorry to hear that. My prayers go out to his family.
Mm-hmm.
So I wonder who did this. It sounds like to me like it's personal.
Yeah, I don't know. We'll see.
Most time, it usually is Solomon.
Mm-hmm.
There's something wrong there. I'm just praying for them. Anyway, John Lewis, I remember that March of summer. I was 14 years old then.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, God had a plan for him.
Yes, he did.
Time to go then. Okay. I mean, that man suffered a horrible brain injury. He really did.
Mm-hmm.
But he lived to be 80, and that's a blessing right there. I saw one Elvis DeGeneres show 2 weeks ago. I was in the laundry watching on the big screen.
Mm-hmm.
He looked good.
Oh, yeah, he did.
There's nothing wrong with him. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, he was just perky, and I said, oh, my goodness. Well, you know, God called him. It's time to come. Come on home, son.
Yeah.
And these protesters out in Oregon, what's wrong with these people going to fetch people off the streets? Where we live? Or do we live in Baghdad? Where do we live at?
That's what it sounds like to me. Sound like Baghdad. It really does.
Who does that? I mean, come on. Just give like to protest. That's their right. But but you know that's coming from. That's coming from the office in the White House.
Yeah.
You always know this. But,
Yeah.
you know, it sounds like a Hitler thing. You know what I mean?
It does. It really does. And we have to be aware of that and stand up against it, because that's not what the Constitution says.
No, it does not. They really overstepping their grounds now. People unmarked vans, law enforcement officers, federal officers, or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I had to go on my phone and say, wait a minute. I woke up and heard that this morning, 7:25 a.m. I said, oh no, he didn't say that. No, he didn't. That's just off the street, because they have right to protest.
Yeah, they do.
Come on now. Oh my goodness. And the schools be open? No, they should not be open yet. It's too early.
Mm-hmm.
They should not be in the classroom. I have grandchildren that go to school, public school in Philadelphia too. Cousins and everybody. You know what I mean? Our neighbors, friends, children that attend those schools. Oh, just keep on praying. And you all have a good day.
All right. I want to thank you so much for your call this morning on WURD. Friendly Fred is on line 1. Go ahead, Friendly Fred.
Hello, Salvin. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
I just want to say they up there mad at the black and brown rainbow. It must be white. See the Holy One of Israel and read Isaiah 60, verse 14. Thank you.
All right, Friendly Fred.
Too.
Yeah, love you back. Thank you for your call. Titan is on line 3. Go ahead.
Hey, good morning, brother.
Good morning.
How you doing this morning?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm great, man. I wanted to say much respect and honor and love to Mr. John Lewis and to everybody that hears this voice and your voice. We all have an obligation to pick up and keep that torch going. Because one of his key fights was systematic racism and health disparity. And we got to do that for us, for our grandparents, for our baby. Me as a man, I'm committed to that. And Solomon, thank you for letting me share.
All right. I want to thank you so much for your call this morning on WURD. If you want to get in, it is 215-634-8065. That is 215-634-8065. That is the number that you can call to get in on the conversation right here at WURD Radio, 215-634-8065. That is 215-634-8065. You can also weigh in on Facebook at onWURD. That's FORWURD, FORWURD, and let us know where you are on any of these things we're talking about on this morning show. Norm McGowan says on Facebook, I am so tired of this mess. This administration is hell-bent on locking a brother up. Can't wait till he gone. And you got a couple of other people weighing in on that as well. Corey C. Vickers Jr. says Trump just wants to be reelected. And you have a couple of other people also weighing in. Gail Robinson says this. Sorry, Dr. Gail Golden, you are wrong on this one with black women. This has been a discussion for a while. Thank you, Solomon, for trying to lead him off that hill, but he stayed there only to prove what the reps and others have said repeatedly. No one don't need to be divided by we need a conversation and understanding. So That's what she has to say about that. Here's what I have to say about that. Black men and black women don't need to be enemies, period. We do not need to be fighting each other. That is counterproductive. Certainly, there are some things that we have to deal with in our community. There are some things that we have to deal with relationally. There are some things that we have to deal with spiritually. There are some things that we have to deal with economically, emotionally. But I think that we have to deal with those things, right, between each other. And when we get to the point where we are facing racism and white supremacy, we need to be facing that united. Now, in order for us to have that united front, there are some conversations that need to be had. There are some changes that need to be made. There are some things that need to be addressed, but we don't need to be fighting each other. That is so counterproductive, right? And that is what we are dealing with now. We're dealing with a president who wants to divide people. So let it be a crack between black men and black women. He'll be exploiting that too. I guarantee it. So we just need to, certainly there are some things that need to be addressed, but no, we don't need to be fighting each other, especially publicly, man, around stuff that we really need to be dealing with on a personal basis. One of the things that I think is harmful about social media is that it allows things that really should be personal, right? Things that really should be handled internally. It makes everything external, right? It makes everything, let's put everything on the table for everybody to see. I shouldn't know about Will and Jada's relationship, man. I shouldn't know all that. I don't need to know all of that. Like, I'm really just trying to keep my thing together, right? I should know who she slept with and whether or not he gave permission and all. Y'all need to be handling that internally, bruh. For real. You know what I mean? Like, it's just some things. And I think what is happening in this day and age is that everything is public to the point where nothing can really be handled because now everybody's in it. You know what I mean? So I don't know. I want to know what you guys think. Give us a call, 215-634-8065. That is 215-634-8065. I do not want black men and black women fighting each other, talking about who suffered more. You know what I mean? We suffering together, and we will overcome together. We will get through it together. That's the only way for us to get through it. But in order for us to do that, we have to know how to treat our sisters, right? We do. And our sisters need to know how to treat us. And so I think that it's a conversation that we have to have, but it has to be a conversation where we speak the truth in love, not in hate, where we don't take out on each other every bad experience that we've had with somebody else, right? Where we don't look at each other like you're that person that hurt me 20 years ago. Like I'm not. No, I'm a different dude. You understand what I'm saying? And so there's some things we need to go through that we need to talk about how we relate to each other. But in order for us to do that, we have to speak that truth in love and not hate. We're going to go to break. On the other side, we're going to continue this conversation right here on WURD.
Dietz & Watson has been making premium meats and artisan cheeses for over 80 years. And when it comes to stacking sandwiches and party platters, they've got something for everyone in the family, like maple honey turkey breast, American cheese, buffalo chicken, and more. So get to your local deli and taste 4 generations of family recipes. With Dietz & Watson on the table, you'll have everyone coming back for seconds and thirds. Dietz & Watson, it's a family thing since 1939.
Part-time job, full-time hustle, all-time Shiro to all of us. You nurture, we listen. You teach, we thrive. You lift our spirits, but we've got to lay down the truth. It's time for you, our Shiro, to stretch for the stars. Start saving more for retirement now, so you can feel prepared and live your life to the fullest. Get free tips to help boost your retirement savings now at aceyourretirement.org/Shiro.
A message brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
Be heard.
Be heard.
Want another way to join the conversation?
Follow us on social media
Using the hashtag onWURD.
Be heard.
Stay connected to Word Radio.
Independent Black Media.
Recovery starts with a call. Pennsylvania's Substance Use Disorder Hotline is staffed by real people who are trained to help. They're here 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. They'll get you or your loved one into treatment regardless of your access to insurance. If you or someone you know is suffering from addiction, call 1-800-662-HELP. Recovery starts with a call.
Paid for with Pennsylvania taxpayer dollars.
Back by popular demand.
It's Wake Up with Word, hosted by Solomon Jones. Right now on Word Radio.
96.1 FM.
And 900 AM WURD. Here's what's trending.
Yo, that's crazy.
On Wake Up with Word.
An updated lawsuit from Breonna Taylor's family alleges that she was alive for several minutes after being shot multiple times by Louisville police officers in her home in March, but was given no assistance by the cops who entered her home on a no-knock search warrant. And Disney dropped a new trailer and poster for Black is King, Beyonce's new visual album set to premiere exclusively on the streaming platform July 31st. You were formed by the heat of the galaxy. What a thing to be both unique and familiar, the singer says in a voiceover. What a thing to be both unique and familiar, to be one and the same and still unlike any other. And finally, last month, more than 700 employees signed a letter to corporate executives calling for racial justice at Urban Outfitters. According to a copy obtained by the Inquirer, employees asked the company for mandatory bias training, a diversity and inclusion team, and to establish an official HR team where Black employees would feel safe to report discrimination. And that is what's trending. You can give us a call at 215-634-8065. That is 215-634-8065. That is the number that you can call to get in on the conversation right here at WURD Radio. Let us know where you are on any of these things we're talking about on this morning show. Going to go to the phone lines and talk with Gary from Germantown on line 1. Go ahead, Gary.
How you doing, Solomon?
I'm good.
What I see in the Black community is we have a lack of honor. We don't honor one another. You know, a lot of Black men don't honor their women, and some of them do. Some of them do, but a lot of them don't. We don't honor women, and we don't honor one another. We don't care about one another, and I see that it's sad. While your guest was speaking earlier, I just looked up. I was reading the Bible when y'all talked, and I was looking up some definitions on honor, and it's talking about showing compassion, celebrating accomplishments, paying compliments, treat others with respect, being understanding, being patient. We lack those things.
Not all of us.
Not all of us.
Okay.
Not all of us.
Okay.
But I believe too many of us.
So what do you think is the solution?
Gosh, we got to learn to honor one another. We got to get back there. We got to read our Bible. We got to understand what our purpose here on earth is. That's what I think the solution is.
All right, Gary, I want to thank you so much for your call this morning on WURD Radio. Let's go to Renee from West Oak Lane on line 2. Go ahead, Renee.
Yeah, good morning, Solomon. I just want to get into Black people as a whole, male, female, children. I just want to get into the mental therapy that's needed amongst our people. I think we need more vehicles to let out our mental stress or distress that, Black people have been going through and still going through. Like, I used to have a show called Off the Chest on WRD. It was basically about people getting things off of their chest, like WRD, the whole station is very informational and mentally therapeutic. And I believe if we had more vehicles for us to go to tap in onto for mental therapy, I think that would be a great enhancement for our race of people. Now, there's a book I like to spit out called Meditation for Evolving People. That's a yoga book, and that helps you mentally. And I just, wanted to put that out there. And I want to give much respect to John Lewis, a man that has been spit on, had his skull cracked. I mean, this man went through so much for civil rights. And it is important for us to keep that torch lit. I just want to put that out.
All right. I want to thank you so much for your call this morning on WURD Radio. And if you want to get in, of course, it is 215-634-8065. Let's go to Tracy from North Philly on line 3. Go ahead, Tracy.
Yes, good morning, Solomon.
Good morning.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Okay. I just wanted to say fornication, adult abuse, forbidden, and, our community needs another retraining on marriage. Like, we've been taken so far away from our original self. A lot of people forget the marriage vows, and what marriage and family is all about. So, we need to go forward and start to share these new, our new ideas on how our families should be. They're not old ideas, they're new ideas, because today, a lot of us in our community is into so many things that's not natural. So hopefully, I agree with the previous caller, like we need some therapeutic training on marriage and oneness, and not fornication and adultery. So that's all I had. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much for your call this morning on WURD Radio. If you want to get in, it is 215-634-8065. That is 215-634-8065. That is the number you can call to get in on the conversation right here at WURD Radio. Let us know where you are on these various things we're talking about on this morning's show. Of course, our What's Trending stories include an updated lawsuit from Breonna Taylor's family alleging she was alive for several minutes after being shot multiple times by Louisville police officers, and they never helped her. Story number 2, Disney Plus dropped a new trailer and poster for Black is King, Beyonce's new visual album set to premiere exclusively on the streaming platform at the end of this month. And last month, more than 700 employees of Urban Outfitters signed a letter to corporate executives calling for racial justice at the company. According to a copy obtained by the Inquirer, employees asked for mandatory bias training, diversity and inclusion team, and an official HR team where black employees could feel safe to report discrimination. We want to hear from you. Give us a call, 215-634-8065. That is 215-634-8065. That is the number you can call to get in on the conversation. I'm going to go back to the phone lines, talk to Spread Love on line 1. Go ahead.
God bless, Brother Solomon. How are you, family?
I'm good. How are you?
Give God the glory, and always thank you for your show. Give thanks from Brother Mike Moore on the boards, always doing an excellent job. God bless up the WURD family and all the victims, not just of the coronavirus, but its system in general, and more justice for Breonna Taylor, Ahmaud Arbery, George Floyd, all the unnamed and unknown. And Brother Solomon, I just want to volunteer on the relationships between our men and women.
Okay.
Give thanks. Naturally, we suffer the dysfunction that was bred into us from enslavement so that we would behave this way. We need to do research on that. They actually studied us to turn us into what we are right now. I think the problem comes in, we done confused male and female with man and woman. We assume that being male or female and getting bigger automatically makes someone man and woman. But man and woman requires things that are beyond male and female, like awareness, self-discipline, self-control, responsibility, growing into adulthood. And that, that's a big problem. I think a lot of that started with, you remember my man Morton Downey Jr. and his television show?
Yes.
That was the beginning of us admiring ratchetness. And you get Jerry Springer all the way down. People ain't got no problem being drawn because there's something cute about it. You know what I mean? And that's a big problem we suffer from. That's part of the dysfunction, again, from enslavement, but also with this media that we use for entertainment. Meanwhile, here creeps in the subtle influences, if you know what I mean. But I ain't going to ramble on too long. You know I got gray hairs. That can happen. But at the same time, I think if we get back to the fact that it's a difference between male and female, man and woman.
Yeah, that's a good point, and I want to thank you so much for making it this morning on WURD. Let's go to Grandel. Grandel on line 2. Go ahead.
Yeah, my name is Brandon Mahone. I'm from New York City. I'm glad we have these statues coming down that stand for racial prejudice. Growing up, there was a statue, if you can remember, if you were ever going to New York City, the Museum of Natural History on 81st Street, the big sign of President Roosevelt on a horse.
Yeah.
And he had a Native American Indian and a black man actually on the side of him. And if you look very closely on that statue, they have rope or a chain around their hands so they can't be moved. So I'm in Philadelphia now, and I'm glad that the Rizzo statue is down, as well as the Christopher Columbus statue. And I think what has to happen is some people have to realize that the Tuskegee Airmen actually defended Italy in World War II. So, we should be well respected that we actually fought against Hitler to have Italy exist. So I think this is very important. I think we are on the right track as far as removing these racist statues.
All right, man. Thank you so much. I appreciate your call this morning on WURD Radio. If you want to get in, it's 215-634-8065. That is 215-634-8065. That's the number you can call to get in on the conversation right here at WURD. We got a couple of minutes left, and if you want to get in, you can certainly give us a call, or you can weigh in on Facebook. We got 250-some comments there, trying to get to some of them. Linda Shields says this: good morning, Word family, Kawais and Solomon. I thought I was the only one who didn't care about Will and Jada's private life. I thought it was stupid to mix today's important issues with that. I understand there comes a time to lighten things up, but let's replace it with positivity and laughter, not celebrities' personal business. Who cares? We have to stay focused on the movement of today, equality and justice, more love, and unite and respect each other. God bless. Phyllis Williams says, nope, let's go up a little bit more because she was responding to somebody else. Here's something. Phyllis Williams says, if they decide to force us to send our children back to school, which is so ridiculous, remember, you're showing them how much you care for them. Asbestos, coronavirus, lack of teachers returning because of fear. I think maybe those who may be trying to enforce this need to go back. It's really crazy. So Ramona Shockley says this: Solomon, I agree wholeheartedly about Will and Jada. It was no one's business, and it shouldn't have been on no red table. It's Breonna Taylor going on, and Will and Jada is distractions. Let's see. Lucy Lusan says this: good morning. To comment on the schools, it seems like they really didn't care about the kids. They didn't want to close the schools when the pandemic started. They took forever to get the online classes up and running, and now they're trying to send them back in the middle of the pandemic. Sad. And so those are some of the comments that we had this morning on our Facebook feed at WURD. And certainly, if you want to get in, you can do that at 215-634-8065. We only got a couple minutes left, so if you want to get in, you can certainly do that now. As we talk about our top 3 stories, which include story number 1, sad story. The search for 2-year-old King Hill has come to a tragic end. The boy's mother says detectives confirmed Sunday that the child was killed. He was first reported missing earlier this month. Police are not yet releasing any details on the developments, but King's mother says detectives confirmed Sunday that her son was killed and that they believe they know who is responsible. Story number 2, protesters reportedly being swept up off the streets in Portland by unidentified federal agents, and House Democrats say they got some splaining to do. In a joint letter, Judiciary Chairman Jerry Nadler and others said the Trump administration appears to have increasingly abused emergency authorities to justify the use of force against Americans exercising their right to peaceful assembly. And of course, story number 3, my commentary for the day. In pictures from the march known as Bloody Sunday, a young John Lewis looked like a man who was walking into trouble. Good trouble, he called it. The kind of trouble that resulted in beatings and arrests, the kind that could have cost him his life, the kind that ultimately changed America for the better. Lewis, who died Friday from cancer, beat the odds more than once in a life marked by good trouble. Now, even in death, Lewis must beat the odds again. He must not be reduced to a hashtag or a name on a bridge, because John Lewis was bigger than that. I want to thank everybody who tuned in on today's show. And as always, I want to thank all of our guests, including Kenneth Salam, otherwise known as Freedom Smitty, lawyer and critical race theorist Dr. Tim Golden, Patrick Rucker of the Capitol Forum, and Philadelphia School District teacher Cheryl McFadden. And now for my man Mike Moore sitting in for super producer Kawesa Mathis and everyone here at WURD Radio. I am your host, Solomon Jones, saying stay tuned for The Source coming up next, and tune in tomorrow for more Wake Up with Word. Peace.
Start your day with Daybreak.
Hosted by Halana.
Weekdays 6 a.m. till 7 a.m. Exclusively on Word Radio. 96.1 FM and 900 AM WURD.
Streaming live at wordradio.com and on the Word Radio app.
This message is from the Philadelphia Department of Public Health. COVID-19 is still a threat in our communities, but we can all do something simple to help stop the spread. It's critically important to wear a mask or face covering whenever you're in public or around others. Yes, even while social distancing. Wearing a mask shows you care for yourself and your community and is essential to slowing the spread of COVID-19. So love yourself, love your neighbors, wear a mask.
Times are changing, and you deserve a system designed to grow your business. Meet Jaxcom, the new standard in business class voice. Only Jaxcom gives you the most features per dollar. Things like visual voicemail, call monitoring, advanced call queues, virtual assistant, plus a lot more. The stuff the other guys charge you